hello, everyone. Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera Passions. I'm your regular host, LeTara, back again, special treat, 2 weeks in a row, with our friend Lisa from far, far away from me. I love having our international guest on the show.
Does the time difference not annoy you that we like? Is
No.
it okay doing it at this time?
I love
Hi
doing
everyone,
it
thank
at
you
this
for having
time.
me back, LeTara.
You're welcome. I love having you on. No, the time difference doesn't bother me. I mean, for you, I feel like it's
Perfect.
late for you.
No, it's not that late, and I'm not at work tomorrow, so we can talk about passions for as long as we want to.
Well, all right. So, and talk about passions we will, because y'all, this week was fun. It was a fun week. We watched episodes 576 through 580. Yes?
We did. I just checked as well before I came on.
All right. But before we get into the episodes, I have to say a quick thank you to all of the patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Muna Shea, Marcus, Brelin, Lisa, Sid, Sarana, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean, S, Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, our Lisa here with us today, Jessica Jean, Laura, Thomas, and Karen. Thank you all so much for being patrons. We will be having a watch party soon, because I now have I'm going to have a little bit more time. So once I go home, we'll be having a watch party next week and the week after. We'll do 2.
Are you home for the holidays?
Yeah, I'm going to go home for the holidays. And so we'll have a little watch party. And maybe, who knows, maybe I'll get some special guests from my family. I have one of my cousins used to watch Passions with me. Like, she and I used to watch it together a lot. So I've asked her if she wanted to be on the show. And she's like, yeah, I'll do it. But she's like, it has been kind of going back and forth on it, but I'm hoping I can get her on, because she's hilarious. Like, she's so funny. So I think
what's the hesitation?
Would be a lot of fun. Yeah, I think it would be a lot of fun. I think she's like camera shy. But anyway, let's get into Passions this week. Let's start with our fated couple. I don't even know if I can call it fated couples anymore. I don't know what to call this shit. This shit is a mess. What'd you say, Lisa?
I said it needs a rebrand.
Yeah, I got to come up with something else. This like ill-fated couples, because they are in bad shape. So we pick up this week and Pilar is attacking Julian. We remember that she was like, damn you, Julian, you took her innocence, and just like went in and just started attacking him and like scratched his face. He has like
gouging.
Yeah, that's what they call it, gouging. Yeah, he has this.
He's trying to tear his eyes out.
Yeah, he gets this big scratch across his face where you can see it's like her 3 fingernails like dug into his face. And yeah, she's going in on him, honestly, and he's taking no accountability whatsoever. He's like, what did I do? I didn't do anything. I haven't done anything wrong.
It wasn't my fault.
Yeah. And then the girls are trying to pull him off of Julian. Winnie and Theresa are, and they don't have the strength of a mother. It takes the strength of a mother, because Eve comes in, and it takes the strength of a mother to defeat the strength of a mother, I guess, because Eve comes in and she pulls Pilar away.
Not immediately.
No,
at first she's fine with it.
Listen, Eve this week,
while
I have been saying that Eve is a villain, I also know that she has been victimized by Julian, right?
We hear a lot about that this week.
Yes, and I love hearing more about their past, and I actually loved a lot of the things she said about him this week. Like,
agreed.
And we'll get there, but I actually was very much Team Eve Russell this week, which I know it might be surprising to some, but we have a common enemy in Julian, because fuck him. So Eve shows up. She's able to pull Pilar off of Julian, and she tells Julian, she says, go to my office. I'll deal with you in a minute. Like, run. She's like, run. And she's holding back Pilar, because Pilar's like trying heartily and mightily to get to Julian still. Like, she is not calming down.
Yeah, she's saying she's going to kill him. Yeah, a mother's fierceness was on full show this week.
Yes, and so she sends him to her office, and she's holding Pilar back. Julian is like lamenting about his face. I've been disfigured.
Yeah, I'm bleeding.
Yeah, I've been disfigured. And then Eve asks Pilar what's going on, and it doesn't. And because Eve knows Julian, Pilar only had to give her like a look and say basically the most cryptic thing about my poor daughter, and Eve immediately was like, Julian seduced Theresa.
Yeah, and I thought, as if Julian could seduce Theresa. What I liked was when Eve said, why are you hitting him now? Not that he doesn't deserve to be hit, but what are you right at this moment are you hitting him? Which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah, I agree. Like, she had some good lines this week as it pertained to Julian. I've
written a lot of them down. But again, she, of course, offers Pilar a sedative.
Yes, I cracked up. And Eric actually sent that clip to me like a couple of weeks ago, and I watched it and I was like, oh, I can't wait to get to that. And I when it came up, I was like, oh, this is it. I was like, yeah, of course.
What else would she do?
Pilar, honey, do you need a sedative? Oh my!
I think the writers are in on the gag now that Eve just sedates everyone. They must be in on it with us.
They have to be. Yeah. It's so funny. She's always giving out drugs to people to get them incapacitated. So anyway, Pilar says, no, I don't need a sedative. What I need is that man dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, meanwhile, then Eve basically lays into Whitney for lying to her about what happened in Bermuda. Whitney says, well, Theresa's my friend. I couldn't give her away. She's my best friend. Like, you have to understand. Eve says, I told you, girls, how dangerous he is. And, you know, Alfred, I don't know. She's having her own moment. Like, Eve is getting more and more upset as the moments wear on. And she's like ready to fight when she goes back to her office.
Oh, yes, she is.
So she goes back to her office and she doesn't waste any time. She immediately just punches him across the face. And it was funny because, again, he's lamenting about his face. He's like, oh, I've been disfigured. He's in the office talking about
more
it.
Blood.
Yeah. And then she comes in and she punches him right in the nose. I mean, I don't even think she said anything to him.
Nope. Immediately.
She just did it like John Wick would.
He was like, your crazy friend, look what she's done to me. And she's like,
yeah, and knocked him down. She gave him a good punch, like a Mike Tyson knockout. And so she punches him. She says, I should strap you to an operating table and let Pilar pluck out your eyes and cut out your tongue. And he says, I don't see what the big deal is. What's the big deal? So we had sex. So what? Like, he says, we had sex. So what?
The weirdest thing he said was, we had sex, but then he said, but you and I had sex once too. Like, why does he think that was such a weird sentence?
Also, why would you think that would help her be less angry at you right now?
Like, everyone's having sex with me.
You know how she feels about you, and you know how she feels about her past with you, and that's only like negative feelings for her. She would only ever be angry about you bringing that up. And she just punched him in the face.
Good times.
He's trying to get punched again. And so
he did repeatedly.
He did. She beat his ass.
Pilar was slapping and scratching, but Eve,
she had full balled up fist punching, dropping the hammer, WWE style.
Yeah.
So like,
it was wonderful.
Every time Julian got hit this week, which was many times, so many times Julian got hit.
So many people.
Great. And every time I was like, yeah, get him. He deserves this.
It was a long time coming, this, wasn't it? And yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they don't even know he murdered Sheridan. Like, can you imagine the beating he would get for that? So she says Theresa was a virgin just like I was. Because he says, we had sex. What's the big deal? He said you and I had sex daily. Look, with Julian. Every day, there's not enough money. There's not enough.
You went to it last week, LeTara. You said you could do it.
Every day.
It's not daily. Not on the daily.
Would be a lot. Every day would be a lot. Julian, like I said, Julian has his days. Like where episodes where I'll be watching, I'm like, okay, I could be into this.
He's quick-witted, I think. I think that's Julian, yeah.
But he's so he actually is just so disgusting that like every day, I don't think I could bring myself to do that.
Just once a week.
Once.
Once a lifetime.
Yeah. One time. Once. It was like I could see myself trying it out and then never doing it again and being disgusted with myself and being disgusted with myself afterwards.
It's a moment of madness. It's not a daily occurrence.
Exactly. So she says Theresa was a virgin just like I was, which seems to be news to Julian. He's like, what, you were a virgin? Like,
oh, I thought he said Theresa. Yeah, he did. Oh, I've written he didn't know she was a virgin. Yeah. Was it Eve? Was it Theresa? Was it both?
He knew Theresa was a virgin because he's talked about it.
Alleged virgin.
Right, she wasn't a virgin when he had sex with her, was he? And they didn't even have sex, so that's the only thing that helps me get through this story.
They dreamt about having sex.
But yeah, Eve was a virgin when he had sex with her for the first time. Apparently, we're all learning this together. Julian included. He didn't know that she was a virgin. We get some flashbacks of him like getting her to drink alcohol with him. We're seeing like the parallels between what happened in Bermuda and what happened to Eve, and we know. Well, we don't. The show hasn't told us right yet what happened to Eve, but we know that eventually Eve became addicted to drugs and like she had a things went.
Yeah, she talks about it in this conversation they have today.
Yeah. Oh, good. She did.
Yeah, she said you got me. Yeah. She said I was young, innocent. You got me hooked on drugs and alcohol. And he was like, well, I was young too. And then she was like, well, what's your excuse this time? Which I liked.
Yeah.
Because he did the same thing to Theresa. Yeah.
Yeah, I was young too. I don't know. Julian looks a lot older than Eve to me.
Oh yeah, he wasn't going to be young compared to her.
Yeah. So Eve starts chasing him around the room because he says, like you said, I was young too. They're having like this argument back and forth. He says that he was only asserting his husbandly rights with Theresa.
It's my conjugal right.
Yeah. And we're married. So what's the big deal? And she says, you don't care about anyone but yourself. And then she punches him again. Then his phone starts ringing. And that is important because it is Brian calling him from Bermuda, trying
she slaps it out of his hand, does she, the phone?
She does. The phone
Which I loved.
The phone starts ringing and she just hits it out of his hand. But yeah, it's Brian trying to get in touch with him, which we will go over in a moment. But yeah. So she slaps the phone out of his hand and she starts chasing him around. She calls him, she says, you're scum, you're a menace to society, you're a disgusting monster, you deserve to suffer and you will. And she's chasing him with a scalpel. She finds a scalpel.
Yeah.
She starts chasing him around and then she's like, I'm gonna teach Ethan and Louise how to cut you into pieces. Like killing you outright, just beating you to death would be too good of a death for you. Oh my God.
Yeah, which was saying like what she thought they should start to do. Oh.
Yeah, just like I'm gonna teach Louise and Ethan how to cut you up. She is not a good doctor. She's a bad doctor. And it's scary.
It needed more evidence. Yeah.
You're gonna teach people how to use a scalpel in the most heinous way possible to commit a murder, like to torture Julian. Like she wants him to be tortured for a long time before he dies. And like she says as much, basically.
She was excited about it. Yeah.
She was like smiling. She's a psycho. No, she's not a psycho.
She's been brought to this moment where we hear about Eve's trauma later.
Yeah, she's not a psycho. I take that back entirely. It's just the smile on her face. It is, I guess, yeah, she is finally feeling like Julian's finally going to get his...
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Yeah, he's finally going to get his comeuppance. And my husband's not going to be the one to kill him. So, you know, I'm in the clear, basically. You know, she wants him to die. She just doesn't want TC to be the one to do it. So, which is interesting.
Then she says he should kill himself.
Did she? I missed that part. She said to him, like, you should kill yourself?
Yeah, she said you should kill yourself. And then Julian said, there's no need for anyone to find out about this. I'm getting an annulment.
Oh. Well, yes, he tries to tell her about the annulment. She
starts talking about Sheridan.
Yeah, well, because he finally answers the phone, because the phone's ringing the whole time where they're having like this argument back and forth. The phone's ringing. And he finally picks it up, and it's Brian on the phone who says, like, I'm calling about your sister. This is about your sister. And Julian says, my sister is dead. How dare you? And Brian says, actually, I have some information to tell you. And then the call is cut short. Like, it just goes out. And we'll talk about that. It's stupid, but yeah. So that's when they go back to... Eve talks about Sheridan, then she starts yelling about him, about her trauma with him. She starts punching him again.
Punching him. I love how many times he got punched.
So many times this week. This man just is getting beat up all week long. And she calls him a pathetic excuse for a man. She threatens to expose him. She says, should I just make the announcement over the loudspeaker, over the intercom in the hospital that you drugged or got Theresa drunk and basically raped her? But she doesn't do that. He says... I don't know how they just start talking about their own relationship. And then, go ahead.
Well, no, I have some notes. Yeah. So she said, you are still the same coward that you've always were. I can't believe that I was ever attracted to you. He says, you were in love with me. That's what you said. I must have been out of my mind or too young to know better. I can't believe you turned on me when I got pregnant. Can't believe the way you turned on me when I got pregnant. So he said that pregnancy earned you a medical degree. Disgusting. And then Eve said, oh yes, your father financed my med school. And I've written in brackets, I bet it was just cheap because it was the online medical school, so I'm sure it didn't cost that much. Heaven forbid that the world should know that Julian Crane had an African American lover, which I thought was interesting. Sounded interesting phrasing.
It was a white person wrote that.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking this writer. And then, it's interesting because I know when you spoke to the actor that played Chad number 1, he did say he was feeding back to the writers a lot about how things would be said in reality. Yeah. And sometimes they listened, sometimes not.
And sometimes they didn't. And he said that sometimes he just would like change it himself because they moved so fast through the show that they weren't going to necessarily go back to make him do the scenes over again. So sometimes he just changed it.
Oh, I like his. And then Julian said, why are you bringing this up? This is ancient history. I'm sorry about the baby. Do you want me to keep going with this? I've written a lot down.
Yeah, keep going.
She said, do you have any idea what it was like to find out my baby was dead? Every once in a while, I still have flashes of someone stealing my baby.
Yeah.
And then he says, you honestly don't think he was kidnapped? She says, not really. It's just hard to accept that he died. Julian says, I was upset too. And she says, no, you weren't. You didn't even call me after to see how I was doing. You just ran like the sniveling rat that you've always been, as if a medical degree can make up for a lifetime of nightmares. And what's worse than thinking he's dead is that he might still be alive. And he might be looking for me and I would never know it. And then she cries. And then
Yeah.
we see Chad, of course.
And then we see a little cut to Chad. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Lisa, because I don't have any of that. So
I was interested in this bit because I thought, wow, we're learning how cold he was to her when she was going through that horrific time.
Yeah, yeah. So they continue to kind of argue back and forth. Eve says, I don't care what you say. I'm going to tell Ethan and Louise right now. I'm going to go and tell them the whole truth or what I know of the truth. He begs her. He begs her not to tell. He grabs her. He falls his knees and puts his arms around her knees like a little kid. Yeah. And he's like, he says, for old time, he says, don't tell them, do this for me for old time's sake. And she says, that's exactly why I'm telling them, for old time's sake, for all the shit you did to me in the old times. And then he reaches his last resort with her, which is telling her, if you tell them, I will tell TC about your past with me. And this works on her, which of course we knew it would. Although, I don't know, if you think sincerely that Louise and Ethan are going to kill him, he won't have a chance to tell TC. Right? When would he have the chance to tell TC? But I get her not taking the chance. I get it. So this works. She says to him, the truth is bound to come out, and when it does, I'll be there to watch. So Julian leaves the room, leaves her office, and out of the frying pan into the fire.
Wow. This was good.
So Julian leaves. While all of that is going on in Eve's office, Theresa is having a moment with Pilar where she explains fully this time how things happened in Bermuda. And I like that they fixed this, because the first time she talked to her mother about what happened, there wasn't the caveat of Mr. Crane got me drunk and like I tried to refuse, but he wouldn't talk to me without drinking, basically. And and then the caveat of I was so drunk, I was passed out. I didn't even know what was happening to me. So I'm so glad that they added that in. I really am. And
then Pilar did say you're an innocent child in this, and I was like, thank you, Pilar.
Yeah, I feel like this week Pilar redeemed herself from the last week where
a little bit. Yeah, she did still say, but I did warn you about him.
Yeah, told you so. Yeah, she did. But I do think she was better this week than she was last week. Because last week
they cried. Yeah,
they hugged, they cried. She was telling her, you're, like you said, an innocent child. I didn't love that she said he's ruined you. Ruined? He's ruined me. I'm ruined. Me, that's like losing your virginity or being, having sex in general out of wedlock or whatever it ruined her as a person entirely. I don't love that framework that she was raped.
There's some imagery as well at the end of the week, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, she was raped and now she says she's ruined. So I didn't love that. But I did love that Pilar was like being a lot more understanding this week of Theresa than she was last week.
Whitney was the voice of reason again. Whitney was like, she's been taken advantage of. And then I think.
Yeah, she actually says asked Pilar not to be angry with Theresa because it was not her fault, which is true. I mean, I'm not even gonna, I mean it. It is true. None of this is her fault. I do believe that she never should have gone to Bermuda, but that doesn't mean that she deserved to be raped. Like, that's ridiculous. Like that, I don't like that framing of it at all. So Ethan and Louise come upon this scene of Pilar and Theresa, who are crying and clearly going through something. And Louise demands to know what is going on. Pilar gets ready to tell him the truth. Like, she readies herself. She's going to tell him everything. But Theresa
was like, this can't just be about Sheridan. And I was like, why not? Like, that was a nomination for my burn of the week. This can't just be about Sheridan. They loved her. Let them cry.
Yeah, that was funny, honestly. This can't be just about Sheridan. Why not?
He's like, I've never seen you so upset. Well, yeah.
She died in a very horrific way. We're processing. Why aren't you more upset? Honestly.
Why wouldn't I be fine?
Exactly. Why wouldn't I be? Okay. So he demands to know what's going on. Pilar is about to tell him, but Theresa pulls her away. And I'm sorry, y'all. I know this is just like a passionsism, or maybe it's just a soap opera-ism, but I hate when we're in the middle of an intense scene where somebody's trying to figure out what's going on, and two people involved, one person pulls the other person 5 feet away and has a full-blown conversation, and these people don't wonder why are they having a side conversation all of a sudden out of nowhere. Could it possibly be that they're hiding something?
And it's within earshot as well. Like, it's a soap opera trope. We know this, but it was particularly noticeable this week because the situations were so volatile, so heightened. They move 3 feet away and have a full-blown conversation about the secret they never want the person 3 feet away to find out about.
Exactly. Doesn't make any. Like I said, I know it's like a trope. I know it's like a thing that they do. I just wish in this scene they had not done it because, like you said, it is so volatile. It is so much going on. It just
like if you zoomed in on Ethan and Louise while they were having this conversation, like what would they be doing? They're going to be looking at them.
What are they talking about? They're talking about them and like wondering what are they talking about.
So they're not having a time out and talking about the weather. Yeah.
You're just creating more questions than answers. So they did that little thing. But Theresa pulls her to the side, reiterates to Pilar, we cannot tell them what really happened in Bermuda because they will kill Julian and then they will go to jail for the rest of their lives.
She's hyperventilating. Yeah, she's at 10 as Theresa.
That's what we're working with here. I hate it, but that's where the fuck we are. I am so over this narrative that, we can't tell Ethan and Louise the truth because if we do, they'll kill Julian and go to jail forever. I'm over it. I'm over it.
Eve thinks no jury would convict them anyway, so.
Yeah, well, Eve, like I said, Eve has made some good points this week. She made some very good points. But Pilar's not going for it. She's like, no, Julian is evil. He deserves to be punished for what he has done.
And they have a right to know, yeah.
He stole your innocence and he ruined you, just like he's ruined every other woman he's been with. Again, I don't love this wording, this phrasing. He has the power to ruin women.
Exactly, yeah.
It's Julian. He's a buffoon. They're not ruined.
Yeah.
They're not ruined. If anything, he is just a disaster himself, And
he can't put that on to other people.
He creates trauma for other people, but I wouldn't say you're ruined after that. That's horrible. But anyway, she then just yells across at Julian. She says, he's gone too far this time. And she yells, Julian Crane is evil. And Louise asks, what does everything have to do with Julian? And when she sees Julian, or Louise sees Julian trying to sneak out of the hospital at this point. And like I said, out of the frying pan into the fire. Because Pilar has now said, Julian Crane is evil. Everybody's heard it. She's yelling it. Louise thinks there's something going on that Julian now has done something.
Did Julian do something to you? Yeah.
To him, to either Pilar or Theresa. He sees Julian before he can get an answer from Pilar, goes over, he and Ethan grab him and pull him over into the area where everybody else is. And they notice that his face is all scratched up, that he's bleeding. And then Louise just goes, what did you do to my sister? And
after he shouted, you ruined her, yeah.
Yeah. This is the point when Eve also walks out of her office, but she acts like nothing's going on. She just pretends like she's going on with her business and minding her business and going on with her day. So Whitney sees her, and all through these episodes, Whitney is trying desperately to get somebody, either her mother or Chad, to stop this whole thing from happening. So she goes over to her mom. She's like, Mom, thank God you're here. Thank God you're here. Louise and Ethan are going to kill Julian. You have to stop it. And she says, why should I?
Yeah. Whitney's really shocked about this.
I loved it. She says he deserves whatever he gets, and she goes back to doing her charts. And so we're having this very tense standoff with the guys where they're trying to get.
He says no jury will convict them, and I'm like, don't the Cranes have all the judges in their pockets? It's weird, isn't it, how the narrative keeps changing?
But I don't know how proceedings, court proceedings, work in the UK. Here we do a jury.
It's a trial by jury.
Yeah, a jury of your peers. And so if the jury is the people from Harmony,
a corrupt judge won't get you that far.
A corrupt judge won't get you very far, but but I don't think the Cranes are above witness tampering either. You see what I'm saying? Exactly. And all it takes is one person to have a hung jury. So,
and half of them work at the cannery anyway. But then that'd be it. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they selected that jury, because there'd be a lot of conflict of interest. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
the Cranes own the town.
I think Eve is right. I think that if they did a jury of their peers from this town, that they would not be convicted. And I also think that they would have to move that trial to some other place. They wouldn't be able to do it in Harmony. So I love that we talk about this it's real.
So much detail.
I think
invested.
There's a conflict of interest with the judges, and I love it. So
let's get a lawyer on to consult about this. Yeah,
really. So the guys are standing off. They're trying to get some answers. Finally, Pilar yells across, "Damn you, Julian! You ruined her!" oh shit. Luis gets mad as hell and he pushes Julian down. He's like, why is my mother saying you ruined? Who'd you ruin? What'd you do to my sister? And so then the girls, Theresa and Whitney, separately are pleading with their respective mothers to not say anything. Well, Whitney's trying to get her mother to stop things, and Theresa's trying to get her mother to stop things, but by lying basically and not saying anything. But neither of them are going for it. Eve says Julian deserves to die, and Pilar says he got you drunk and stole your innocence. He has to pay for what he did. Then Luis starts to air out all his past grievances with Julian. Like he's just like,
this is for Sheridan. Yeah.
And so it is at this point, they're like roughing him up, both Ethan and Julian. No, I'm sorry,
Ethan
and
throws
Luis.
him on the ground. He's like, you used to be my father, but I'm not your son anymore. Throws him on the ground.
Yeah, that was like probably one of my favorite parts because Julian pleads with Ethan, like, Ethan, please, you were once my son.
Yeah,
and
like, then he said, I'm not your son anymore.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not your son anymore. And he yeets him across the room. And it was so funny. The way he rolled on the floor, I just...
tried to crawl away.
And
it's so pathetic.
Poor Ben Masters, he was having to do a lot of physical work this week. He really was. But it was really worth it. So, Luis starts to air out his grievances with Julian. Whitney is still trying to convince her mom to intervene. And that's when, because Whitney's like, do you want Luis and Ethan to go to jail for the rest of their lives? They're going to kill Julian. And she says, no jury would ever convict them. Everybody in this town hates Julian. And I love, because Whitney said the exact same thing like last week or 2 weeks ago, that everybody hates you, Julian. She told him to his face, like, everybody in town hates you. I don't think they would have a problem tearing you to pieces, right? Eve is saying the exact same thing, but now Whitney has a problem with it, of course. But also, the whole thing about everybody in town hating Julian, that comes up again soon, and I just love
it's hilarious.
I just love the way we're really doubling down on showing the townsfolk, because we've heard this narrative before, but we've not seen other people. We've only seen like our core group of people,
and
so we haven't seen
stories.
The things.
His chickens come home to roost this week, definitely.
Yeah. So since things aren't working out with her mom, trying to get her mom to stop things, she appeals to Chad to try to get him to stop. And he says if Julian did something to Theresa, then he deserves the beatdown that he's about to get. And he's like, I'm not in this, my name is Bennett, I ain't in it. That's what he basically says. And so everybody's just it's just chaotic, honestly. But I really enjoyed it. But it was a lot of Theresa trying to get Pilar to do something, Whitney trying to get Eve or Chad to do something, and then just interspersed with scenes of Luis and Ethan beating up Julian. It was great.
It was brilliant.
it was great.
Finally, Chad kind of tries to step in and say, look, it's not worth going to jail for, fellas.
Exactly. But it's at that point when there's like a little bit of a lull in the fighting that Julian starts to yell for help. Help me, arrest these people.
These brutes have been using me as a punching bag. I demand that you arrest them. There's some cops in the hospital.
2 cops come up and they grab Ethan and Luis from behind. Theresa yells out, no, Luis. And the other cop's like, Luis? And he turns him around. He's like, Luis, tell me what's going on here, buddy. What's the big deal?
Hi, Luis.
And Luis says, basically tells him, this guy did something to my little sister. And he's like, oh my goodness. Both of the cops, these crooked ass cops. I am not against what's happening to Julian. I'm not against it. But this just solidifies what I've been saying for years on this podcast. The Harmony PD. The Harmony PD is terrible. I would not feel safe in this town because
it depends who you are, doesn't it, in this town, to see what type of treatment you're going to get from the police, really.
Yeah, because they just turn him loose and tell him, have fun.
They say, take it outside. As long as we don't see it and it's not on our watch, go for it. Yeah.
And Julian objects and says, don't you know who I am? Because the cops were about to just leave. And he's like, don't you know who I am? He insulted them, called them flat-footed something.
Donut swilling fools. That's going to get them on side, Julian.
You're right. That's going to get them to help you. He's insulting them, telling them to arrest arrest Ethan. Oh my God. Well, Ethan and Luis. And saying, don't you know who I am? And they turn around and like, you're goddamn right. We know who you are. The first one says, you got my mother fired from the cannery because she spilled some coffee on your shoe. And then Julian says, well, I should have sued her for trying to scald me. And then the other one was like, and you forced my brother to sell his home for pennies on the dollar for so that the Crane Industries could have a bigger parking lot. And he's like, what, should the executives ride a bus to work? Like, this is not helping. And they leave.
He thought it was as well, didn't he? He thought he was like reasoning with them logically. Oh, Julian.
They leave until they tell Ethan and Louise, have fun, buddy. Have fun. We didn't see anything. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And they go. And that's when Louise and Ethan try to start dragging Julian outside. Eve calls Eve, because again, Whitney's back to trying to get her mom to do something about this. Which
Whitney really got through to Eve.
I also don't know why Whitney was going so hard on this. I didn't get it. I didn't get why she was like, trying to make her mom have like this weird moral dilemma about this horrible man. This man is horrible. You have said so yourself. But here's what she says. She goes up to her mom and she's like, I don't understand why you're not doing anything about this. Eve says Julian's killing, them murdering him basically, would be a mercy killing. It would put us all out of our miseries. Oh, it was great. It was a great line. Eve delivered this week. That actress, yes. She delivered so many amazing lines this week. The face card never declines. It was just,
I believed her. Yeah.
So
she sold it.
She says that Julian's murder would be a mercy killing, putting all of us out of our misery. And then Whitney says, I don't understand. You always taught me and Simone that life is precious, and everyone is here for a reason. And if you don't live by those values, how do you expect us to live by those values? Boo, boring, boo. I get where she's coming from.
I think she was just so shocked to see her mom, this amazing doctor of the year, who usually helps everyone, not helping. And I think it was such a shock for Whitney she couldn't get her head around it. Of course we can, because we know Eve's history with Julian, but I think it was maybe different from what Whitney had ever seen her mum. She'd probably seen her treat everyone that comes through her door. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. You're absolutely right. I just hated it. I just wanted Whitney to stop it, Whitney. Let your mom.
Yeah, I think she was more wondering what's happened to you, mum, rather than I really want you to defend Julian. Like, this is not the mother I know. This is not the kind-hearted. Except, I don't know. Yeah.
Yes. Why wouldn't you start to think, what is it about Julian Crane that's big? My mom has never acted like this about anybody else. Yeah. But what is it about Julian Crane that is making her so callous?
Because we saw the hints of this last week as well, didn't we? We're like, Whitney hasn't picked up on the fact that Eve has an interesting perspective on Julian that seems to go deep.
Yeah. Well, this gets through to Eve. She decides, you know what? Let me step in. And she stops Louise and Ethan from taking Julian out. And she tells them, how could you beat him up and kill him or whatever you're going to do to him without knowing all of the facts? You don't know everything that happened. You don't know anything that happened, really, to be honest. They don't know anything. And she says,
beat the facts out of him.
Wait, what?
They said, we'll beat the facts out of him.
Yeah, they'll beat the facts out of him. They could have. I mean, it doesn't matter. We know Julian did something that was worth getting his ass beat for. Like, I don't
every day of the week, because the cops have just filled it in. Yeah.
I don't need all the gory details. So, but she says, let me tell you what happened, and maybe once I tell you, you can decide what you want to do with Julian. Then she makes up kind of a lie. It's not really a lie.
It was quite it's a lie in the moment.
It's a lie in this context. I didn't know what she was going to say, because I was like, what could she possibly say in this moment that's going to make sense for why Pilar was crying, why Theresa was so upset? Like, what could she possibly say? But what she said was that Pilar was upset because Julian had been upsetting Ivy, and Ivy's on her deathbed, and she was angry because Julian has just divorced her and is now at the hospital, also basically tormenting her. Yeah. And now this, of course, makes Louise back off, but it only revs.
I don't care.
Yeah. But it only revs Ethan up, right? He's like, well, and then a nurse comes in to kind of corroborate this.
Perfect timing, nurse. Yeah.
Perfect timing. She comes in, she says, makes a beeline for Julian, says, I don't know what you did in Ivy Crane's room, but you did something to her IV drip, and she hasn't been getting all of her medicine. She almost died. She could have died. And the nurse that was in there before heard you call her the whore of Harmony, and that you were messing with her equipment. Because Julian doesn't think that he fucked anything up. But I remember last week he was like fucking with all the machines.
He did. He was just, it was funny. He said, I didn't touch Ivy's IV, which I thought was quite a good line.
Yeah.
So we know he was lying. He knows he's lying.
Yeah. And
the nurse knows he's lying.
Everybody knows he's lying. And that's when Ethan grabs him, lifts him up off of the ground, And he becomes enraged and says, if you don't you ever go near my mother again. You have tormented her and made her life miserable for 20 years. And that wasn't enough. You tried to kill her too. Luis then says, if you ever cross my family again, I'll kill you myself. And then the guys all leave. The boys go to get a drink because Chad's like, hey, let's get out of here. That's how Chad calms Ethan down, because Ethan's like ready to fight. But Chad is like,
was
put
quite
him
good
down.
at diffusing that situation. Yeah.
He did a good job. He's like, put him down. Let's go get a drink. He's not worth it. And they all head out to a bar, I guess, to get drunk. As if we have, you know what? Never mind. They don't know about Theresa. I was about to say, as if alcohol hasn't caused enough problems.
Oh, I didn't think of them. I didn't imagine them going to the bar to get a drink. I imagine them just going like the water fountain in the hospital to cool down. Isn't that? Yeah. Isn't that
I mean, that might have been it.
I don't know where they were going. Yeah.
When he said, "Let's go get a drink and calm down and chill down," you know, I thought that
we might find out next week.
Let's go get a drink. Yeah, I don't know, because then the next time we see Ethan, he's at Pilar's house, so we never see them go anywhere.
We do see them again.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It could have been either one works. So Julian then thanks Eve for saving him, saying, I knew you still had feelings for me. And she says, I do have feelings for you. Pure hate, Julian. And I only stopped them from beating you for Theresa's sake. I don't want her brother or her fiance to get in trouble. You better get that marriage to Theresa annulled or you're dead, Julian. You're dead. And she was like smiling when she said that. Loved it.
She loved it.
And later on, moving ahead, to Pilar's house. Everybody's at Pilar's house. Theresa and Pilar are there talking about what happened. Pilar's very shaken up. She's cooking dinner.
Yeah.
And she's very shaken up. She's just having a hard time. She's processing, honestly. I get it. But Theresa is continuing to tell her, you can never tell Ethan. Ethan can never find out. And of course, Ethan walks in the room right as she's saying, Ethan can't find out. And he's like,
this was silly.
What can't I find out about? And what was it? It was something about dinner.
What Mama's cooking for dinner. It's a surprise. And Ethan quite rightly says, it's a surprise. I can smell it. And obviously he could see what she was cooking. So poor effort, Theresa, but I guess she thought about the moment. And it was his favourite dish that Pilar used to cook for him in the mansion.
Yeah, arroz con pollo. I know my Spanish is bad, but yeah, chicken and rice. So Pilar's on edge. She's really shaky. Ethan comes in. He's like, let's get to planning our wedding. Here's my question. Can't y'all just use the same plans from the last one? Right? Like what?
Yeah.
What is there to plan?
You're choosing a different theme?
Wouldn't you still have all the
new
same
color scheme?
Yeah, like same vendors, wouldn't you basically have all the same thing? I mean, Harmony's a small town. There can't be that many bakeries that make wedding cakes or, that many venues. You're that you're going to get married at the church. Like, what is there to plan? But he wants to sit down and plan this wedding with her. Teresa's trying to put it off. Yeah, I mean, they already planned a wedding. Teresa has now planned 2 weddings because she planned his first wedding to Gwen.
For years.
Yeah, she planned that wedding to Gwen. They have a multitude of plans. There's no planning to be done. There's no more planning that needs to be done here.
They just need a date. That's the only part of the plan. Oh, of course they need a new marriage license as well, though.
Set a date and a new marriage license. I wonder why they have to get a new license.
Yeah, didn't he say something about it expired? Or I think he said it expired because
it's weird though because it hasn't been that long.
Yeah,
and I think you have a certain amount of time from the time you get it to the time it has to be filed. And again, it's literally they just got back from Bermuda. It's been 2 days, 3 days max from the wedding. Just keep that in mind.
Well, what the writers do, the writers exploit the fact that 2 days for them is 10 weeks for us. And they go on Harmony time, don't they? And finesse details, as I think we are both going to pick up on later.
Oh.
About the time lapse.
The time is crazy in this show. And like worse than a lot of other shows. And it's not always bad. It's not always bad, but it's in moments like these where it's like, you just got that marriage license. Like the wedding was 3 days ago. We all know this. I feel like even if I was watching this show in real time, I would be like, yeah, like they went to Bermuda the day after the wedding. Why would the marriage license be expired? They just got back from just file the license. But whatever, they get a new license. It doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm trying to make sense of this. They're getting a new license. So they're sitting down to fill it out. Ethan's like, the first question on the form is, are both parties married, single, or divorced? Why would that be on the application?
I wrote down, is this what they actually ask? And then Ethan was like, this is a weird question, but an easy one for us. Like, I didn't even attempt to fact check. What does it say on American wedding licenses, marriage licenses 20 plus years ago? I didn't think I'd be able to find out, but
I didn't check it either. Because it sounds weird. Because he said the same thing I thought, which is why would anybody be applying for a wedding license if they already are married?
Well, bigamist might, but I would have thought it would say something like, are you legally single? Or something, not are you married, divorced? It would be weird phrasing if that's how it was written.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So they're sitting down doing this thing. Teresa's trying to she's trying to stall for time because she's waiting
What about
to get her
Ivy?
annulment.
She doesn't like me. She still thinks I sent the letter to the tabloids.
Yep. And Ethan says, "Don't worry about my mom. I'm not going to let anybody ruin our special day."
Yeah.
But
He said, I can't wait to marry my beautiful, innocent bride. Why would you say that?
Why would you say that?
It's such a weird thing to say.
If somebody said to me, like, "Oh, you're so innocent," excuse
Yeah.
me?
Is that a compliment?
Especially if they were like, "You're so innocent and you're so sexy." Like,
yeah,
is
but he obviously
sexy?
didn't mean it. He didn't mean it to say virginal, did he? Because he knows. And then I wouldn't describe Theresa as innocent in any way, because he knows she's a schemer. I don't know.
I think at this point, Ethan does not know that Theresa.
He doesn't know the lengths she's gone to. Actually, yeah.
I think at this point, he doesn't know how much of a schemer she is.
How many lies she's told him. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, eventually, soon, actually,
it's
coming out.
Yeah.
So he then, oh my God, they're stalling for time. She's stalling for time, talking about Ivy. Then Luis comes in, after Pilar has dropped something, because
it was that innocent line that made her drop the pot, because obviously Pilar heard innocent as virginal, which made her drop the pot in horror.
Yeah, she drops her pot. Luis comes in. He's like, "What's going on? Why'd you drop the pot, mama?" And what did she say? I think she just said that she was like tired, or I can't remember. They cover it. It's not
Mama
important.
just dropped a pot. No one. Yeah, I think after they drop the pot, Theresa and Pilar again just go off to the side again and have a side conversation. And this was what really annoyed me, because Theresa told Pilar, Julian didn't force champagne down my throat. She was basically trying to say it's not all Julian's fault. He didn't force champagne down my throat. And I've written, he basically did.
Yeah, he did.
Pretty much.
Why are we trying to absolve Julian? Why are we trying to absolve Julian? I don't get it. He is the villain. Let him be the villain. Just let him be the villain.
I think they want us to like him a little bit, don't they? I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's a fine line.
Yeah, and this one I can't get on board with. I honestly, I felt bad for him when he was like killing Sheridan. You know what I mean? Like,
you could tell he was conflicted there.
Right. So
we don't see that now, though. I'm not seeing much guilt from Julian in the aftermath. Is he repressing it? Why do I want to believe there's goodness in Julian?
He has no guilt. He has no remorse about this whole situation. The only reason he has any bit of remorse about it is because he's going to get in trouble, right? Or possibly be killed or maimed, but other than that, he does not care. So I don't know why they're doing this, where they're having Theresa like kind of defend him.
Is she just trying to calm Pilar down, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. So Luis then suggests to Ethan that they get married tonight, that they just elope to New Hampshire and get married
by justice there. Yeah.
By the justice of the peace. Theresa says no.
It's not romantic enough.
It's not romantic enough.
Agreed.
And Ethan then agrees with her. And he's like, yes, you deserve like this beautiful, amazing wedding. You deserve all these things. But literally 8 hours ago, you were trying to force me to get married in Bermuda with Julian and Rebecca. What are you talking about? I deserve this great wedding. Well, you wouldn't listen to me.
Can you imagine seeing a picture of us on the mantelpiece with our clothes all creased from being in the car for hours, which we then, of course, get the flash of Julian and Theresa's wedding pics.
Yeah. But also, if you got married by the justice of the peace in Bermuda in your hurricane clothes, that would have been the picture on your mantle.
There's not that much differentiation. Yeah.
That would have been the picture on the mantle. So, but he lets
still not looking good. Yeah.
He lets it go, saying, yes, you're right. It's not romantic enough. You deserve this wonderful wedding. Even though, again, I just have to say it again. While they were in Bermuda, she gave him multiple reasons why she did not want to get married to him. And he kept pressing the issue. She gave him multiple reasons. My mom's not here. It doesn't feel right. Sheridan's dead. Like,
just died. And then he said, I wouldn't dream of messing up your first and only wedding. But this is again another change of heart.
You didn't care about the quality of this wedding one iota when we were in Bermuda at all, and now all of a sudden you care about the quality. Fine, I'll take it. So that's like where we ended with them this week. You have anything to add for them?
So they're talking about this wedding. Something is burning. Pilar looks at the dinner. It's ruined. She says, I'm terribly sorry. It's ruined. So Pilar really she self-flagellates a lot, Pilar. She's very down on herself. Luis says, I've never experienced mum burning dinner ever. And then he made the joke about Theresa burns food, though. He says, you say my wife's not a good cook? He says, no, she's just easily distracted.
Yeah, which I believe.
And then Pilar starts to do the laundry.
Oh yeah, you know what?
This
I
is
missed
what I
the
wanted to
whole
talk
thing. This
about.
is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed this whole thing. I guess I didn't write that. I guess I didn't take a note on that. Yes, go.
I've got
Go for it.
notes. Shall I take us
Yeah.
to the end of this
Yes,
segment?
please.
So yeah, so Louise is like, oh well, this seems to be a sign. This is from another plot, but I did just feel sorry for Louise because he's like, I've been invited to the lobster shack. Do you want to come? And everyone was like, nah, I've got things to do. No, not coming. And I've written, Louise's fiance has just died. Why will none of his family go to the lobster shack with him? I didn't like it.
I felt the same way. I was like, why are they not going to get
Totally.
lobster with their?
We know why the writers didn't want the family there, but
Yeah.
from this perspective, I felt really sorry for him. So Pilar says, no, I've got stuff to do, which is laundry. Yeah, and Ethan says, Theresa, what's wrong with Pilar? Theresa says she's just embarrassed about burning dinner. Theresa lies as easily as she breathes. They just roll off her tongue. Pilar goes to Theresa's room.
No, I agree. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though she's your fave lovable lunatic.
I love her. I love her.
Yeah.
Listen, I love a crazy bitch in a show.
Yeah, you love a Sammy B. Yeah.
I love Sammy. I was going to bring up Sammy. I'm a big fan of
when
Sammy
we watch
Brady.
Sunset Beach, you're going to have a favorite character when we watch Sunset Beach as well.
I can't wait.
I won't go down that road. Yeah, we got a good girl in that one.
I love a crazy girl who's just like knows her own mind, you know, like she's strong-willed.
Yeah.
And is going to get what she wants.
I'm going off on a crazy tangent, but it's very short. When Sunset Beach got axed in the UK, they tried to replace it in the same slot on the same channel with Days. They did a promo. So Alison Sweeney, she was like, if you thought this character was a bitch, get a load of me. So they tried to sell her as the replacement for our beloved femme villain from Sunset Beach.
Oh.
Anyway, I digress. So Pilar sees the wedding dress in Theresa's room, looks upset. She says, damn you, Julian Crane, what you took away from my daughter. Obviously talking about her virginity, as Pilar thinks. Pilar imagines Theresa with him. And then weirdly, something red gets thrown all over Theresa's wedding dress. I don't know what the red substance is. Did you catch that?
I did not. I don't know. She knocks some stuff off of Theresa's desk, and whatever was on her desk splashes onto the wedding dress. Where did this wedding dress come from, though? Can anybody tell me where this wedding dress come from? Because if everybody remembers, Theresa left the wedding, right, ran off in her wedding dress. She goes to Whitney's house, where she takes that dress off, gives it to Whitney, and Whitney was the last one with the dress. So did she? And when would Whitney have had the time to take it?
He doesn't do much. She gave it was like, should take this back to the Lopez Fitzgeralds.
Yeah, can you take this back to Pilar's house? Because when would Whitney have had the time to take the dress back? Because then they all just went to Bermuda immediately.
They went directly to Bermuda. That's a good point. Somehow the wedding dress has got back there. Some kind of red substance has been thrown all over it. Pilar's crying. Theresa comes in and hugs her mum. And yeah, it looks like there's blood all over the wedding dress. I'm guessing this is supposed to represent her broken hymen. I think they were trying to do something here. Am I reading into this too much?
No, I thought they were trying to do something too, but I was like, what could this? Yeah. Like what? Because okay, there's this opera called Lucia di Lammermoor, and in it, she wears a wedding dress. She has a mad scene. She kills her husband, basically. And then she does this mad scene, and she's like covered in blood all over her a beautiful white wedding dress after this like beautiful wedding. And it was very reminiscent of that, but I was like, what are we trying to say here? Like in Lucia, that girl went crazy and she killed somebody. What are we trying to say about this wedding dress that's covered in what looks like blood? But why? Maybe it's just supposed to be jarring. Maybe
I thought it was like the posts. I thought it was supposed to represent, the post first intercourse bleeding that females. I don't know. Maybe I was reading into it too much. It was very strange.
If that's what it is, that's so weird and gross.
That was my interpretation of it. Maybe I'm just weird and gross, but it did look like blood. Pilar was sobbing about her daughter's virginity being taken. I thought that was on the wedding. I thought that was the visual representation of it. Listeners, comment. What do you think it meant?
It probably is. You're probably right. Yeah, comment. Tell us what you think it means. Because it didn't. To me, it didn't. Because to me, a lot of blood like that indicates death. Like it's a foreshadowing of death usually.
So just do general doom and
so I guess it was dramatic. They were trying to be dramatic, but yeah, maybe it was after her.
It was definitely dramatic.
Broken.
That was my interpretation.
Oh, so funny. Okay, so that's where we ended with them this week. Yeah,
that's where we ended.
Okay, good. Oh, I'm sorry.
You keep missing off the ending of the Fated Couples. Last week you missed that Pilar slapping Julian. This week the weird hymen blood.
Yeah. The weird hymen blood. Yeah, that's so funny. I don't know why I missed
It's the end of the week by this point. It's long. Yeah,
I remember watching it. I just didn't take a note on it. Okay, and it was important. I don't know why I didn't. All right, so let's talk about Louise. There are separated lovers. Well, let's pick up with Sheridan first, and then we'll come back to Harmony. Okay, so Sheridan is at Liz's hotel. They've got her in room 6. Room 6 is so weird. I don't understand. Well, we'll talk about it in a second. But yes, she's in this room. She can't talk, remember, because her
bumped her larynx.
So
That's
yeah,
what Doc
she's
thinks.
bruised. Her larynx is bruised. Whatever. So Brian, we pick up where Brian is supposed to be like calling the Cranes to get a picture of Sheridan faxed over. And again, I don't believe for 1 second they can't find a picture of Sheridan Crane somewhere without having to call the Cranes.
Agreed.
Like I need to call Bill Gates to get pictures of him. No. You know, I don't know his kids, but I bet I could find pictures of them on the internet. You know what I mean? They're not even famous. And Sheridan is famous.
Yeah.
So
we made a meal of this last week, and we will make another meal of this again this week by the lack of pictures of Sheridan in the news.
Why would you have a headline that says Sheridan Crane laid to rest and there's no picture of her? What? There's no picture of her in the newspaper?
Made a meal out of it, actually.
They did.
Very annoying.
They did.
Yeah.
We'll
get to that.
It just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, Brian is supposed to be calling the Cranes, but he decides he doesn't want to call the Cranes. He says, they're not going to believe me. Who will believe me? And Liz is like, you just don't want to call because you want to keep that girl all to yourself because the girl of your dreams floated up inside of your fishing net and you just don't want it to turn out that she belongs to somebody else and she can't be with you. She says, you're clearly smitten with her, but she belongs with her family.
Doc says you're not making any sense. Quite rightly. He didn't make any sense. Why Brian thought Julian wouldn't take his call or believe him.
Yeah. So Brian then says, okay, fine. Okay, I'll call. So he calls to get Julian's number and he gets the attorney. What's his name? Harold? Harper. Yes. Mr. Harper. And Brian asks to speak directly to Julian Crane. Again, I'm not going to call Microsoft and be like, can I speak to Bill Gates?
Like, this was so funny though.
And like,
Brian did well here. Oh, I won't say Brian did well. I'll say Harper did bad.
Poorly. So bad.
Did he go to the same online law school as Ethan did? But we found out later they did.
He graduated top of his class at Harvard Law, apparently, allegedly. But Brian says, I have information for Julian Crane. I need to tell him directly. And Mr. Harper says, I can't just give out my client's phone number to any random person who calls me, and then proceeds to give out his client's phone number to any random person who has called him. Because Brian,
exactly. Not a good lawyer.
Brian makes the most the thinnest possible threat. And this lawyer who allegedly graduated top of his class at Harvard caves immediately. He simply could not take the pressure. What Brian says is he threatens to go to the tabloids with this information that he has. He doesn't even tell the man what the information is.
He said he threatens to go to the TV and say, I'm going to tell them that Julian Crane doesn't care about his sister. Again, as a lawyer, I mean, I'm not a lawyer. You may be shocked to know, but you'd be like, well, that's libel or slander. I don't know what it's called in America, but if he was a good lawyer, I think he could have, railroaded Brian. But he's not a good lawyer, like any lawyer we've met so far in this TV show.
No, he's not a good lawyer. He caves immediately. He gives Julian's personal cell phone number to this man. And then Brian takes this moment. He doesn't call Julian immediately. He goes and like checks on Sheridan, and he like has an imagined a scenario in his mind of their life together, about him coming home to her and her being so in love with him. And I hated it.
And I was like, this was pedantic, but I'm like, oh, he knows exactly what she sounds like in his fantasy.
That's true. Yeah, he knows exactly what Sheridan's like somehow. So later he does attempt to call Julian, and this is when Julian is fighting with Eve, or Eve is beating up Julian. They're not fighting. And the phone gets knocked out of his hand. But Julian does answer the phone, and Brian says to him, I'm calling about your sister. And Julian says, my sister is dead. How dare you? And Brian says, well, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm talking about. And then Liz comes in and hangs up the phone, even though she was the one in the first place who was like, you need to call, pushing him to call. She hangs up the phone and she says, you guys need to see this. And it's a newspaper with the headline and no picture that says Sheridan Crane laid to rest. So they think, well, that woman can't possibly be Sheridan Crane. Why not?
Case closed. Yeah.
But they cite that in the article, it says that they identified her through fingerprints and dental records. And everybody's going along with this narrative because who can argue with that, right?
Exactly. Well, Pilar can, because she has to pray for a miracle, but otherwise no one else is arguing with it.
Yeah. And so now they're like, well, who the hell is this woman in the other room? So they go in to talk to her, and Sheridan is still asleep, but she comes to, she wakes up, she's terrified, she's confused, of course, she's dazed and confused, and they calm her down, say like, Brian found you, can you tell us who you are? But she can't speak. We're doing the Little Mermaid. We're doing the Little Mermaid. She's been rescued by Prince Eric, and she can't use her own voice.
Liz annoyed me. She was like, oh, you could at least say thanks. And then Brian's like, oh, she's a pushy old broad, our Liz, but she's not that bad.
What bothered me about this is they were like, well, she can't speak. Bring her a pen and a paper.
Yes, I wrote that down. Oh, it looks like we can't find out your name until we get your voice back. I was like, why not write it?
Like she might not be illiterate. She might be. We don't know anything about her, but bring her a pen and a piece of paper and let her write it down. Mm-hmm. They did not do that. They brought her some soup, which fair enough. She was probably hungry. She's been out.
Liz makes a mean chowder, according to Brian. So.
Apparently, she makes great soup, and it's gonna heal up her vocal cords somehow. As a voice specialist, I can tell you that this was complete bullshit.
Oh, that's not a thing.
No, it's not a thing. But anyway, it works eventually. She drinks, she has the soup, and she is able to speak some, and they ask her name, and she starts to speak, and then she realizes, I don't know what my name is. My whole mind is blank. I don't remember anything since before I woke up. So now she's caught Grace's amnesia. Just catching in this town.
Can I rewind 2 seconds just before she starts speaking? Because this really bugged me. Brian was like saying to her while she was still silent, oh, it was lucky there was some clean, dry clothes on the boat. And she was like, you've changed me? And she like shrunk into herself. And he was like, don't worry, little lady. I got you changed under a blanket and I didn't see anything. I thought my concern wouldn't have been that someone had seen something. He could still have molested her under the blanket. I thought it was weird. He's like, it's not my style. I didn't see anything. I'm like, you could have felt her up.
Yeah, anything could have happened to Sheridan in her sleep. And she wouldn't remember it anyway at this point, but not that I said, the way I said that sounds very flippant. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. What I meant is that anything could have happened to her and she would not know it.
She's a blank slate. Yeah.
They
try and reassure us. Don't worry, someone must be looking for you. I like this because Liz said there must be a missing persons report. So she's a better detective than Sam.
Yep. So she's like, I'm going to go check in with the police, figure out who's missing, who hasn't been accounted for. We're going to find your people. Don't you worry. She comes back. Turns out nobody's looking for her.
Everyone's been accounted for.
Everybody's been accounted for. And so there's no one looking for her. This really upset Sheridan. Oh, this made me sad. She was like, what do you mean there's no one looking for me? Who am I? Why don't I have any family? Why don't I have anyone looking for me?
Yeah. But then listen, maybe everyone who would have been looking for you reported you missing. Maybe anyone that would have reported you missing drowned. And I thought, oh, that's not going to work.
Yeah, how does that help? Thanks, I guess, Liz. That doesn't make me feel any better at all, but thank you for trying. Thanks for playing.
But Doc has a theory about this.
Go ahead, tell them what the theory was.
So when they find out there's no one looking for Sheridan, Doc says, I know who you are. Sheridan's very excited. Liz and Brian try to stop him. It's not the right time, Doc. Doc says, it's always time for the truth. He thinks that she is an alien dropped from space by the Corlanian race, because every 100 years they drop the most beautiful woman of the race on Earth. He says she can take it because Corlanian women are strong, but she is horrified by this. Oh, he starts trying to talk to her in an alien language as well, which is quite funny.
Yeah, and he says he wants to take some skin samples from her and like
he's like, can I at least take a sample of her skin? She looks terrified.
Yeah,
Liz distracts him with crop circles.
It was very weird. I would say it was unnecessary, but it makes sense because they then later on explain that the reason that particular doctor is on this island of misfits is because he lost his license in the States because of his theories about aliens. So it makes sense.
I agree with you though, unnecessary. It makes sense, but like a lot of the silliness that they do in Passions, I love and enjoy. This was just silly, not enjoyable. I don't care for it.
I didn't need it at all, but but that's what they do. They do a lot of this nonsense. But yeah, he thinks she's an alien. He's dead.
They've got time to fill. 5 hours a week. Yeah.
Yep, that's true. So much time to fill. Mm-hmm. Why not throw in some aliens too? Hell, we got demons. Why not throw in some aliens too? Let's just bring all of the supernatural shit in and see what sticks.
It would have been cool in the last episode if they got like the Corlanian spaceship to like beam Sheridan up in the last episode. That would have been a good touch. And Doc was right all along. And I would have liked that.
She actually, like, Sheridan, her whole life has just always been an alien. That would actually be funny.
Like, they wouldn't have known that she was the most attractive female if they like dropped her on Earth as a baby, maybe.
But it wouldn't make sense. Well, maybe they. But what if it's like the most beautiful alien female baby? Like they do it early, and it takes them so long to get here. So by the time they get here, they're grown. Oh well, no, that doesn't make sense, Tara. That doesn't make sense. She was a baby.
They did go wild by the end, though. By the end of Passions, that would have not have been like out of the ordinary, would it, if they like made something off the wall like that come true?
But they bring the baby to Earth, and then they leave them because she's the most beautiful Earth baby, and that would explain why she's not like any of the other cranes.
Not like the rest of the cranes.
Yeah, she's not really one of them. She's an alien. Okay, so Liz gets him out of there because the doctor's scaring her, and then Brian starts to like promise Sheridan that she can stay at the hotel for as long as she wants.
This was funny.
And that, you know, you fit in well here with us, even though he doesn't have the money to pay for his own stay. And Liz overhears all of this. Yeah, I like I said, I don't like him. And I'm remembering why. I never liked this character. And part of it is his treatment of Liz and how he uses her so much.
Yeah. And the attitude he gave her. She's supporting him. I was raging. I was like, I can see why LeTara doesn't like him. I'm with you 100% after this week.
Yeah, I don't like him, and I'm glad that I'm being vindicated in my hate right now because, she overhears him telling Sheridan that she can stay for as long as she wants, and you know, until she gets on her feet. And Liz is of course upset, and then Brian asks Sheridan, well, we have to come up with a name for you, basically, because Sheridan says you don't have to keep calling me Miss. And he says, well, what should I call you? What? And since you don't know what your name is, just tell me what's the first name that comes to mind. And what is it?
This is brilliant. So the first name that comes into Sheridan's mind is Diana, and she said it in the way she used to say it as well, which is really funny. She said it so seriously. So, and I thought this is Passion's way of saying "F you" to the royal family, who stopped them using Diana. Because she wasn't talking about Princess Diana. She just said the name Diana. And she said, oh, I wonder why that name came to me. Maybe I know someone called Diana. I've written down, you didn't think maybe I am called Diana? She just thought maybe I knew someone called Diana, which was obviously her best friend, Princess Diana. It was funny. I liked it.
Yeah, now we're doing the Diana stuff, which I remember Sheridan as Diana so vividly. Like,
she had the haircut.
Yeah, I remember this whole storyline of her being Diana. Because I just remember thinking it was just so weird. Like,
it was so distasteful. It was not long after the passing of Diana, couple of years max.
Yeah, because what year did Diana pass?
It was horrific. Was it? I want to say 96 or 97. It was very close to.
Yeah. Because I mean, the show picked up in 99 and Diana hadn't been gone at all, like very long at all at that point. Yeah, 97. So
terrible what they did. Yeah,
that's crazy. Like that's crazy. So now we're in 2001, which is what, 5 years past. It's just not enough time.
And they're tipping the hat to it still in 2001. Like, they haven't grown ashamed of what they've done using someone's death for entertainment purposes. They're still doing a cheeky wink towards it.
And I like you said, I think it's distasteful, and it pulls you out of the show a little bit. It pulls me out and be like,
because it's so weird.
Yeah. Okay, Diana, I guess. So anyway, she's Diana now. So from now on,
she is.
I will be referring to her as Diana. The rest of my notes have her named as Diana. So, Liz then
switching between. It's interesting.
I had to decide what I was gonna do, and I think I'm gonna do Diana while she's Diana, right?
Diana, makes sense.
So Liz then pulls Brian out of the room. Hey, Brian, can I speak to you for a moment? And she says to him, who's going to pay? If Diana's going to stay here, who's going to pay for her to stay here? And Brian says, well, I'm going to pay for it. And she says, okay, but who's going to pay for you? Because you have a stack of bills that you haven't paid me for. He says, you come on, Liz, you know I'm good for it. Do I? Because I'm telling you,
you're in debt to me.
Yeah. You're not good for it because here's your bills and that you haven't paid. And then he was like,
he was offended by her. Yeah, but it's true.
He says, you know, every time I go out on the fishing trip, I come back and I give you every last dime that I make. But it's still not the amount that you need.
Well, she said sometimes you don't come back with anything, Brian. So he's not keeping his own head above water. Now he's trying to support someone else, and he gets almost annoyed with Liz for pointing out that he can't do it. The woman who is subsidizing his life. I was fuming.
He was so nasty to her. He was so nasty. I don't like this man at all. He was so nasty to her. And yeah, like, what? You know that I'm good for it. No, I don't. You have not shown to me that you are good for it. Again, I will reiterate, you owe me a lot of money. You've been here for all of this time. I know
you have unpaid bills.
Like,
that's what I know, Brian. You're not good for it.
Even though you come in and you give me all your $150 or whatever you made on one fishing trip, you only knock down a little bit of your debt every time you give me money.
You were living in my hotel for free.
Yeah, and eating up all the food.
All the sandwiches.
Oh my God, the sandwiches. So Liz, basically, he and Liz then start to have, they escalate this argument because Liz then says to him, why are you on this island? Who are you? Who are you? What are you running from? I know why I'm here, because I bought this hotel and I can't unload it. And I know why the doc's here, because he lost his license and he can't practice in the US anymore. But none of us know why you are here on this island of misfits, on this godforsaken island. And then Brian gets very tight-lipped and he's like, well, what are you running from? And she doesn't want to answer that. He just turns the question around on her, and they agree to not talk about this anymore.
He's like, we take each other at face value on this island. Yeah,
exactly. But they decide eventually. Liz agrees to let Sheridan stay, and she says maybe she'll be helpful. She
hopes it's a good investment. She hopes she comes from a rich family who'll give her a big reward for looking after her, basically.
Yeah. So she also says maybe Sheridan can earn her keep. She'll do housekeeping and wash dishes and things like that. So back in the room, Brian goes back to the room. Diana is in crisis, of course, because she believes nobody loves her. No, she has no one in the world. She's all alone. Brian tells her she fits in right here with us as a family. And then Diana's like, you're a fan. I'm a part of your family. Oh my God.
So happy.
And it's Sheridan, right? Like, that's so Sheridan.
That's hitting into Sheridan's need to belong. Yes, LeTara.
Yeah, that's so Sheridan, just wanting to be part of a family.
Oh, Diana.
Oh gosh, Diana. So yeah, Diana is Sheridan. Like, her quintessential Sheridan is still there.
Her personality is so Sheridan. Yeah.
And you know what? That does speak to how we have been told amnesia works in this world. Like, when we talk about Grace and her still doing all of the same things she used to do, she just didn't remember that she used to do those things, like putting honey in her tea and
morning stretches.
Yeah, and
praying to who does she pray to in every storm? I can't recall.
Not Saint Nicholas,
but it's the same saint.
It's one of those saints, Saint Raphael, I think it was. And
yes, it was.
She does all the same things that she always used to do, allegedly.
I wrote down, I wonder how often amnesia occurs in the real world compared to the rate that it occurs in soap opera worlds, because it happens so often in soap operas, but it must be so rare in real life.
Listen, because I count, as far as the amnesiacs in this show, I say that there are 3. I believe Grace is like medically has amnesia. Diana Sheridan has amnesia, right? Charity also kind of has
bouts of amnesia.
She has amnesia every day. She just wakes up with a new thing she forgot.
That's magical amnesia, though.
Yeah.
So it's a different category. Yeah.
It happens it is so incredibly prevalent. And I know it is so incredibly rare for people to have truly have amnesia. I know that there's like levels to it, and people have like very blurred memories. Like,
it's usually in real amnesia, it's usually your short-term memory that you lose, not your long-term. The people that do get amnesia in real life, it's usually they find it hard to remember what they did 5 minutes ago, not 5 years ago. So again, it's right,
the whole who am I kind of amnesia does not, I'm not gonna say it doesn't exist, it does, but it's so incredibly rare. But anyway, we have plenty of it here.
We do.
More than we can deal with here. So, she's having a crisis of not conscience, really just like a crisis of who am I, and why isn't anybody looking for me, and why doesn't anybody love me? And Brian is trying to...
It really picks her up, though. Yeah. Yeah. Being told she can be part of the island family.
We're like a family. She so wants
and
to
then Doc says that people never leave the island.
Yeah, what is this, Moana? What are you talking about?
Like, people never leave.
Or Hotel California, you can check in but you can't check out. So, like, I don't know.
Hotel Liz.
I think it says you can check out but you can never leave is the Hotel California. Welcome to the Hotel California. Hotel Liz. What is her hotel's name, I wonder? Do we know?
We'll call it Hotel Liz until we find out.
Yeah, Chez Liz.
Chez Liz, yeah.
So then Diana wants to see the rest of the island. Girl,
even though it's night.
Yeah. Take a nap. Go to bed. These people, you have inconvenienced these people greatly. Let them rest, right?
She's still got the heiress vibe. She thinks it might jog her memory, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, of course, Brian says, we can walk for as long as you like.
We can go for a nice moonlit stroll and have a moonlit picnic. Liz will make us some sandwiches. When he said that, I thought, how the hell, why don't you make the sandwiches? Go make sandwiches. If you want
was it the chef that was going to make the sandwiches? I think he said Liz can organise some sandwiches, and I think there must be a chef in the kitchen at Chez Liz. I think that was the plan. But Liz quite rightly tries to bring him back down to earth. She's like, Brian, it's late. you've got work, you've got to go out in the fishing boat in the morning. And when he sort of insinuates he's thinking of skipping it, again, she's fuming because he is not paying his bills. And again, I hate him because he's kind of getting arsey with her again. Oh,
yeah, he says,
so annoyed.
He says, well, I'll probably just take the day off, basically. And she's like, you have to pay for her and for you. You can't miss a day of work. Like, you need to go to work. And she keeps reiterating to him also that she is drowning. Like, financially, she is not doing well. And so she needs the people in her life. And he pretends like he cares about her. You would think that he wouldn't want to put any more burden on her in her life.
He's not bothered about Diana now. She says, who's going to pay for the sandwiches? He's like, add them to my tab. Oh.
Your tab that you can't pay because you're not going to work tomorrow. I cannot stand him. So they get together, they get the picnic together, they go out for a stroll and go out to the beach.
Can I pause before we get out there, because I've got an important question I want to ask you. So again, Diana says, I don't have any clothes, what am I going to wear? And Brian's like, oh, I'm sure Liz has got something for you to wear. I said Liz is the new Charity. No, Liz is the new Kate and Diana is the new Charity. Poor Liz is getting bumped back and having to give everything to the new girl. I don't like it.
I'm so glad you reminded me of that, because this is why I said room 6 is so weird.
I need to ask you about this hotel's policy about luggage. Because I know you've worked in a hotel.
Yeah, Sheridan's in room 6. And when Brian says, well, I'm sure Liz has something you can wear, Liz goes, well, I'm sure that she couldn't fit any of my clothes, but I'm sure we can find something. And she walks over to the closet of this room, of this guest room, opens the closet.
I didn't even think about that.
It's full of suitcases that other people have left behind. And she says, these are suitcases from people who didn't pay their bills.
She confiscated them. Is this a thing? I know you've worked in a hotel. Is this commonplace? Is this a legal thing that happens?
What I will say about whatever's going on in Liz's establishment is it is very much not in line with most corporate hotels, but she does have her own independent hotel. And I did also work at an independent hotel, and they did have different procedures and rules than IHG and Hilton did. But it was never anything like this. Like, it was like, you can pay in cash, because you can't pay in cash at like certain hotels at Hilton and IHG. Like, so it was stuff like that. It was never like, we're going to keep your shit because you didn't pay.
Like, how did this even work? So the guest can't pay. Does she go in their room and just take their stuff? Like, what happens?
Don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And the fact that the suitcases are just stacked and stashed inside of a guest room closet. Like, is this a room you never use? You never sell this room?
Was it an emergency room for the emergency Diana? Yeah.
I don't, because I mean, it looked like a regular guest room with a bed and everything nicely made. Everything's nice. Like, they have it kept up in housekeeping. It didn't look like a storage room or a place where and for a moment, a second, I thought, well, maybe this is Liz's room, but no, it's not Liz's room. It's just a guest room. It's room 6. It's just a guest room. So she takes people's luggage and keeps it, I guess. And
what, does she try and sell their sweaty clothes? Like, I don't understand. They're not going to be nice. It's going to be towards the end of a vacation, I guess. They can't pay their bill. And she's like, right, I'm going to keep your clothes.
Because you don't charge people. You don't charge people until they check out. That's number one. At most hotels, you don't charge. You don't charge until they check out. People, if you can prepay at some hotels, but you don't charge people until they check out. So maybe people would come to the front desk to check out. But the thing is, you can just leave a hotel and they charge your credit card.
Well, that's it. Do they wrestle with the suitcase as they're trying to leave? Liz?
Oh, you know what?
How does this go down?
You know what? Wow. They probably do have to come to the front desk at her place, because I think she has physical keys for her doors. She had physical keys on like key rings, and that would mean that somebody would have to come to the front desk to check out, because you can't just.
Yeah, but if I don't pay my bill, if I'm not going to pay my bill, I'm not going to be worried about hotel etiquette. I'm dashing the key and running. I might even climb out of the window. Go to the front desk.
I might even climb out the window.
I'm not a good guest. I can't pay.
You got me. You're right. I don't know. This shit is crazy. Yeah, she just takes their luggage. Maybe she just looks at them and like, I bet you can't pay, and just takes their stuff.
Give me that suitcase. I hope you've got some designer clothes on there I can sell. Probably not if they can't pay their bill on St. Lisa's.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's hard to get off the island. Maybe the island's hard to get off of, so she can catch up with them very easily if they try to.
Yeah, because it's not going to have an airport, I guess, is it?
Yeah,
so
I think they have
must
to
need to get off the island by boat. Yeah.
So maybe.
Again, we're getting too deep in this.
Actually, this was one of my favorite parts of the episodes, because I was just like astonished by the fact that she had these suitcases in this closet in a guest room. But anyway, and I mean, they were stacked up. And so Diana goes through the thing. She finds herself a pretty white dress, gets ready for her date with Brian. and they go out to the lobby, get their picnic, and head out to the beach and sit down to eat their sandwiches. And one of the sandwiches is wrapped in that newspaper that says Sheridan Crane laid to rest. And she opens up her sandwich. She sees the newspaper and she says, Sheridan Crane. Ugh. But the thing is, I've already seen this, so I already know that she gets nothing from this.
So my thoughts were, that was perfectly, wasn't it? Can you imagine that happening by chance with the newspaper being wrapped with the headline on? I've also written, does this kitchen not have any supplies? So they've got the chef to prepare some sandwiches for hotel guests, and they are wrapped in newspaper.
In newspaper. And today's newspaper at that.
They need that for the hotel guests.
Today's newspaper.
Yep.
I don't know. So let's go to
Harmony.
There's not much here, but what is here is very important.
I'm angry with Hank.
Oh, Hank's the worst. And remember, was it last week or the week before where I was like, what the hell is going on with these writers? Like, Hank is making sense. Whitney's like doing things that she's never done before. Well, Hank's back to being an idiot. So I think we got our regular writers back because
all is well in the world.
Hank meets up with Luis at the hospital. Hank is in and out throughout the week. Wherever Luis is, he kind of catches up with him. So, and every time he sees Luis, he says little things like, you can't mourn Sheridan forever. It's been a day.
One day. I'm like, is it 2 days or is it one day?
It's been a day since he sat in a funeral home and watched as his fiance was cremated. I mean, Hank, have a little sensitivity. So Hank he literally says to Luis at one point, you can't mourn Sheridan forever.
Yeah.
She died yesterday. And it was horrific. And I was there. Can I have a moment, please? Actually,
I've written, grief is part of life. He's grieving. It's healthy for him to, it's 1 day later. Fair enough, Hank, if he was still acting like this years later, you might have a point. 1 day later, no. We need to grieve.
We absolutely do. And so Hank, then we go to the book cafe. And
back at the book cafe, aren't we? Yeah, this week.
And y'all, Beth is back in the picture. And y'all know Beth's shit is about to rev up. Beth is back. And we will explain where Beth has been. I'm going to go ahead and say where Beth has been. Yeah. Beth has been on a trip to up the New England coast. With her photography club, which this is the first time hearing of a photography club.
New hobby.
In Harmony, first of all, but also that go on like 3-month-long trips. She's been gone forever.
Yeah, I was wondering how long she's been missing.
She's been gone
missing. How long she's been on her trip? Yeah,
she has been missing. Where is Beth? I've been asking.
It was commented on, wasn't it, in the show that we haven't seen you for a while, Beth?
Yes, they say like, where have you been? And she says, well, I went on this trip, touring New England with my photography club. Okay, fine, sure, whatever. Anyway, Beth is back. Hank talks to Beth, says, I'm worried about my friend. He's mourning so much about Sheridan. Like, yes, why wouldn't he be? He thinks she was he thinks that she suffered the most horrific death. He just dealt with it. He was there. Why would you expect him to not? I'm surprised he's out and about. I would be in a hole somewhere.
Functioning at all at the moment. Yeah.
The fact that he's up and walking around is huge.
He's doing as well as could possibly be expected after what has happened.
Yeah, and right now what he needs is support. He doesn't need you telling him to stop crying over his dead fiance who died yesterday.
Bizarre behavior from him.
So weird. So Luis and Hank are talking. Beth comes over, gives Luis her condolences. He's very sweet about it. And then also at the book cafe, Miguel and Charity are there, and they have made a book. And this was lovely. It was sweet. It was sweet.
It was sweet when it was made. It was made for the wedding gift.
Yeah, and that is my primary problem here. Because Charity and Miguel are there to give Luis this book of pictures that are all the pictures they could find of Luis and Sheridan together that they made as a wedding gift for Sheridan and Luis. And they say as much to him. They're like, we made this for you. Sorry about Sheridan.
This might help. How's it going to... He's lost his fiancé. But I know it's hard to know what to say to people in situations like this. I thought the wording was interesting.
To bring up the wedding, like, to say, this is for you. It was supposed to be a wedding gift. I don't know, just give it to him. I feel like he would understand where it came from.
Yeah, it's memories of good times, we hope. Bring you comfort.
Because it is lovely. And Luis does enjoy it. He's looking at the pictures and he's enjoying it. And I will say, as somebody who's recently gone through, like, losing people, the pictures are really... I do love the pictures. So I thought it was a really lovely gift. I just didn't love the way it was presented to Luis. So he sits down at the book cafe and he's looking through this book of pictures. And he looks through it. He looks through it for, I think they say, for over an hour when Hank comes back.
Beth says he's been looking at it for over an hour. And then when he finishes the book, he just starts it over again.
Yeah.
And then Hank says, I wish he would stop torturing himself. Sheridan is dead and he's never coming back. Again. Died yesterday. What is wrong with you, Hank?
What is wrong with him? And it's not necessarily like the character's fault. It's the writer's fault. Why would they write it like this? Give us at least a week. They should have at least given us a week or two between Sheridan's death and Hank doing this. Because
they've given us a week in real time. Do you know what I mean? Not even time, but a week in time. That's why they wanted to obviously move it on
And I needed them to do, because we're still dealing with the aftermath of Sheridan's death. So give us a little bit of time here, all of us. Even I know Luis is going through it. Like I still need time. As a viewer, I still need time. Like, hey, it's poor, to me, it's just poor writing to write it this way.
Terrible. And Beth said it was harsh, and I said I agree with Beth. She says Luis needs to mourn and say goodbye to Sheridan in his heart. So Beth was actually the voice of reason in this moment.
Yeah, but Beth's not so bad just yet. Beth is. I like Beth right now. I just know how crazy Beth is.
But then says she'd want him to get on with his life. I've written down, right? Okay, if I died and my boyfriend was getting on with his life the next day, I would be fuming. I would haunt him. It's not what I would want. I would be raging.
Haunting you forever. And like, do not think you can move, go wherever you want to go. I'm haunting you. The house isn't haunted. It's your whole. I'm haunting your spirit. I'm haunting your soul.
We can't move to the next realm because you hurt us so much by moving on so fast.
I'm not going anywhere at all. If you move on, the day after I die, you're like, oh, gotta move on with my life. That's that. So much.
You just love me then.
So much for LeTara. Yeah, no, absolutely not. So then Hank goes over to Luis after talking to Beth. He tells Beth, I can tell that you're still crazy about Luis. I can tell by the way you look at him. And she says, I'm just worried about my friend. And I hope God gives him the strength to get past Sheridan's death. She does talk about how
she's in the background. Yeah.
Well, and she does talk about how she wishes that things did turn out differently between them when they were together. And from her view, the only reason that she and Luis did not work out, it wasn't a problem with the relationship. It was because he felt like he didn't have time for a relationship because his father had disappeared and he had to like step into the man of the house role. So for her, in her mind, there was never a problem between her and Luis.
It just wasn't the right timing.
And it wasn't the right timing. And of course, they could definitely work and make things work. So, and she's about to try it. So Hank goes over and starts nagging Luis again about like, you need to, quote, let Sheridan go. Let her go. Let her go. I just lost her. I just lost her.
It's a process, Hank. Agree. Oh, Hank.
And then he
said there's a fine line between mourning for someone else and mourning for yourself. What's he talking about?
What does that mean?
I don't know.
What does that even mean? Whatever. Eventually, he says, hey, man, why don't you have to take baby steps to get over to Sheridan. How about you start with just like hanging out with friends? Meet me at the Lobster Shack in an hour. And so Luis says, okay, I'll meet you at the Lobster Shack, baby. And I was so excited. We haven't been to the Lobster Shack in so long. I thought we were never going to go back.
I thought it was insensitive though, because Hank knows that Luis went with dates with Sheridan's Lobster Shack, but I suppose it's a small town. He has probably been everywhere in Harmony with Sheridan. I don't know why I'm trying to find sympathy for Hank though, because he's being out of order.
He's completely out of order. And also, like you said, taking Luis to the Lobster Shack specifically is very insensitive. Because that's where he's had like his first date with Sheridan. And
so Hank wants him to move on. Isn't he's not that right, though, is he, Hank?
No, he's a dum-dum. So Luis goes to the Lobster Shack to meet up with Hank, right? When he gets there, he's ambushed by a double date. Hank is there with a date, and then Beth shows up. And that's like where we end it. We don't get Luis' reaction to it or anything, but I imagine he will be gracious. I think.
Yeah, Beth's nice to him. I'm so glad that you're here. But yeah, I was wondering who Hank's date was and like who would go on a date with Hank. We've never seen this woman.
Who's that lady? I will say Hank is hot, so like I would give him a chance for a little bit, but he's so stupid. Yeah, I think he's hot.
I think Hank was hotter.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You do?
Facially, first Hank. I obviously it's Curtin's hair, but I thought first Hank was more handsome.
He did not do it for me. I like this one a lot better. As far as his looks go, the acting. I saw
this. Say he was in Chuck.
This guy?
Yeah.
I think Laura said that he was in Chuck. Yeah. I've never watched Chuck, but I think Laura did say that. Or maybe Eric said it. Somebody said it. But yeah, and I saw him recently on something. I was like, oh shit.
How's he looking 20 years later? Yeah.
Good. He looks great. That's a good looking man. What was it? It doesn't matter. I think it was actually
good acting.
Nope. Not grown at all. Nope. Just such a dunderhead. So
I'm glad he's still making a living in the fields.
Yeah. All right. You got anything to add to that? I think we're done with that part.
I think we're done with that one.
All right. Let's finish up here. We're going to do Trouble Marriages, jump into magic. And magic was a little bit of a treat this week.
Yeah, we didn't get a lot of magic, but what we got was pretty good.
It was good quality. It was. So Grace and Sam are at the book cafe. This is when we see Beth for the first time, by the way. And they ask Beth, like, hey, Beth, where you been? And she said she was on vacation with a photography club touring New England. Then David shows up. Now, I have a question for you. When you watched this episode, did your sound cut out?
And only for a short time. Yeah.
It cut out. It literally, the sound, I don't know if it was like, if it's a conspiracy or what. The sound was only ever bad in these episodes when Sam was talking to David. Like, and so we had this scene where there was no sound whatsoever. I had no clue what was going on. I just watched and tried to see glean what was going on. So I said,
silence, calm conversation. All I can see is the lips. I was just looking at you when David was talking and there was no sound. The thin lips just captured my attention.
Yeah. So all we got of this was that when David comes in, Sam says he has something to say to him and he needs to say it in front of Grace. And then the sound cuts out. And then all I wrote next was Grace looks confused. So Sam had said something that made Grace look confused. Turns out, the good thing about Passions is they reiterate everything over and over again, right? So it turns out when we cut back to the scene, the sound wasn't gone, but it still wasn't good. The sound of just this portion got really muffled. But basically, what Sam had said to David is that he believes that David and Grace's marriage is legal. And then David put his hand on Grace's head.
I believe it.
Well, I'm glad that you have finally accepted that Grace is my wife. I don't know what that accent is, but it's the best I can do. And
David's accent is weird.
I think is he Australian?
I don't know what he's supposed to be. I don't know if he's supposed to be British. I don't know where he's supposed to be from.
I don't know, but it's very.
Someone trying to do a British accent, maybe.
Is it? Let me look up if this guy is who this guy is. Let's see who he is. Played by Justin Carroll. Let's look him up. Copy. Yeah, it says he was born in Greece. What?
I've seen an article from 2022. Justin Carroll talks about Passions and his latest endeavors. Oh, he's an actor and life coach now. Doing Passions was very interesting because I came from doing a night show called Beggars and Choosers. Doing a soap opera was very different. Played David Hastings, had to do 10-page monologues. He had a great time on Passions. First person he met was Mackenzie.
Well,
had the privilege of growing up in places such as Greece, Rome, and London.
So maybe that's why his accent's so weird. Because he's been all
everywhere.
Over the place.
Yeah, so
yeah. Okay. Well, we figured it out. You figured it out. Thank you.
Well, it was a team effort because as soon as you found out the actor's name, I googled the name.
So David is doing his weird accent and he says, I'm so glad that you finally accepted that Grace is my wife. He grabs her hand. Sam grabs his hand and moves it physically away from Grace's hand. And then Sam grabs Grace's hand and he says, I didn't say I accept anything. I don't accept your marriage and that you're married to Grace. What I believe is that even though my marriage to Grace is not legal or recognized by the church, in my heart and in Grace's, we are married, and Grace and I will always be together no matter what. he then dismisses David. You can go. That like he was like, you can
we
go
need to
now.
think about how to tell our family. David said, thanks for being honest, and at least you know I'm not a con man.
And then he goes over to talk to Beth, who is fangirls over him. It's like, oh my God, you're David Hastings, right? I'm an amateur photographer. So this is the reason why we've randomly given Beth a photography hobby, is so that she will recognize David Hastings and ask him to look at her pictures. So she was like, I love your work. Actually, I just got back from a trip where I was taking pictures with my photography club. Would you mind taking a look at my work? And he's like, okay, sure. And she hands him a stack of pictures. And he's going through the pictures and he's like, ooh, good composition. Oh, this is very interesting subject. Oh, that's an interesting angle. And then he gets to a picture. He's like, this is a really cool panoramic shot. Where was it taken? And she looks at it and she says, oh, that's Hartford, Connecticut. And ding, 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 ding. He doesn't recognize it. Which is a big, huge clue to everybody that this man is. Now we can all say David Hastings is a con artist, because
this is the first time, isn't it? They're giving us any reason really not to believe him. Yeah.
This is the first clue that he may not be exactly who he says he is, because you said that y'all were from Hartford and that you got married in Hartford and you got married at this church and you don't recognize the city. When you
hasn't
see
been
it?
there for years and a lot has changed, he says.
I'm just not buying it. But yeah, that's what he said. That's what he says. But I did love that we finally got a little bit of an inkling that he is up to no good.
There's intrigue.
No good. Yeah. So now we have to talk about Sam and Grace, who have called called Kay to call a family meeting. And Kay wants to know what it's about.
Bless her.
And she thinks it's going to be about them going on a family vacation. She's in for a rude
Hawaii,
awakening.
she's hoping for. I like a style.
Yeah. So they go off to have their family meeting. They stop by the site of their home being rebuilt, and they talk about getting remarried and being their marriage and relationship is going to be is and will continue to be as solid as the house that they're building and as solid as these beams. And then they take a marker, and like two teenagers in love, they write their names on the beams of the house in a heart, and it was so lovely. Yes, I did enjoy this and thought it was sweet. And I think that's just such a cute thing when people are building homes and stuff, like putting just hiding little pieces of themselves inside of the construction is really, I don't know. You might never see it again, but you know it's there.
It's cool that someone might find it, like in years to come. I think it's cool.
Yeah. So they go to this family meeting. Our family meeting starts, and the girls are very excited to hear about what are we doing. And so Grace tries to say it, but she can't bring herself to say it. Sam has to say it for her. And he says, someone from your mother's past has shown up that knows her. And the girls are excited at first. They're like, that's amazing, Mom. That's what you've always wanted. Somebody to kind of fill in the gaps. Tell us more about it.
This is great.
Be careful what you ask for, because then Sam's like, well, this is not particularly good news. Actually, the person who has shown up, it turns out before your mother ever met me, she was married to this man, and she and I are not really married, aren't legally married. Now, maybe it's because I am the product of a divorced family, like divorce. Maybe it's because divorce is so prevalent in the US. Maybe it's because I know so many people whose parents aren't married and never were, but the reaction to this was wild to me. Both of the girls get upset, but Kay takes it hard, way too hard.
It was, I was shocked. I was shocked by Kay's reaction. I'm like, would she really care? Like, my parents are still married. Like, even if it was so important for her that, like, there's extenuating circumstances anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if it was so sanctity of marriage and that was what she really believed in, you could give this one a pass because it's out of the ordinary anyway.
I agree. And her main thing was that we're going to be a laughingstock. Don't you see? We're bastards now. We're illegitimate, basically. We're bastards. She says that. Jessica
was lovely, wasn't she?
Jessica was like being really understanding about it. They were talking about having another wedding and just, trying to make
it was going to be a Christmas themed wedding. They were like, it'll be a winter wonderland. We can have a sleigh ride to the church from the backyard. And Kay was like, yes. And we can all wear big signs around our neck that say bastard. She really went over the edge with it.
Yeah. And to me, Kay is 15, 16?
Would it be a thing? Was it a thing then? It's not a thing now. Yeah.
Would a 16-year-old be like, oh, so upset because I'm a bad... That's not
even... Would they even use that word?
That's not even terminology we would use. I
I'm
didn't
like
know.
wondering in 2001, but I think even in 2001,
No, I didn't even know the I didn't
no.
even know the meaning of the word bastard in that
Mm.
sense. I only knew it as like basically like a curse word or
Yeah,
something bad.
yeah,
You call somebody you're such a bastard, but I didn't think of it in the sense of like somebody whose parents weren't married.
yeah.
Ever. I didn't even I had never thought about it in that
So
sense.
it's not a common,
And I don't
yeah.
even think I knew that that was that was even part of what being a bastard was until I was much older. I might have been, I honestly, I might have been in my 20s. Like, you know what it
Yeah.
was? I think I was watching The Tudors, and that
Yeah,
was,
well, I was going to say hundreds of years ago, it would have been a thing that was viewed as bad, wasn't it? But
yeah, and
2001.
and it was brought up in The Tudors, like, oh, he has this bastard child, and I was like, oh,
So you put two and two.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, no, it was ridiculous that she would be so upset that people are going to be like, she's a bastard. Nobody cares about that. This is America. Nobody cares, and it's
It was
2001.
funny because Kay was like, people point at me when I go down the street. I was like, I've never seen that. So she's like, hey, there goes Kay Bennett. Her family is nuts. Hey, there goes Kay Bennett. Her cousin sees dead people. Hey, there goes Kay Bennett. Her house was swallowed by demons. And now they can say, hey, there goes Kay Bennett, the bastard. I'm like, really?
Yeah,
Would people say that?
she's going off.
Mm.
Now, I understand partially that she's like, every time I go out, there's people like whispering about me. I believe that. I believe
Yeah,
that
I can see it.
because
We haven't seen it, but I can see it happening.
their
Yeah.
house was swallowed up by hell. I would be avoiding them myself, if I'm being honest. And
Yep.
yes, if I did see her, I'd be like, oh yeah, remember that time? Like, she's the one, she lived in that house that got swallowed by hell.
You
Like,
would, yeah.
yeah, of course. So I do believe that she probably has heard people talking about her. And
But it's more like notoriety. She's probably a local celebrity.
yeah, and also
The house was sucked into hell.
I don't believe for one second that the teenagers of this town give a shit
No.
whether her parents were married.
And
or
again,
not.
are all the teenagers of this town's parents married? Do you know what I mean? Is that the status quo in Harmony? If so, it's a rare town.
And also, what a weird thing to write. If we're just talking about like what the writers have written here,
Yeah,
that's so alienating to your audience to make this big deal about children whose parents aren't married. Because a lot of people, tons of people have children every year and since time immemorial who have not been married. You know what I mean?
And were you and Eric talking about like why the show pushes the religiosity so much? And was the thought kind of it's to a certain type of traditional housewife where maybe it's a big Christian demographic watching, so it would mean something to them. I'm not sure, but it feels very odd.
Yeah, it does. Because I feel like, yes, it's a daytime soap opera, so the people that are the main audience typically are going to be your housewives, typically more conservative people who women who stay home.
Yeah.
However, so many of those women probably, are not married, might not be married, or have the exact same. Yeah, they might have been remarried. They may have had a child before they were married. Things happen. So
yeah, you're alienating a lot of potential viewers here. Yeah,
it's just to make it such a big deal seems weird to me, but they did it. And Kay, y'all, okay, so let's get into how big of a deal this is for Kay.
Yeah,
because Kay then storms out of the house after she says, you're making us a laughing stock. Now I'm going to be known as the town bastard. She storms out of the house and she vows that I'm done trying to be good. I'm going to do what I want. And to hell with everyone else. Miguel is the man that I love. And I swear he's going to be mine. Like she was going off and a windstorm starts to wind starts to swirl around there. There's leaves flying everywhere. It was really cool, actually. It was so drama and extra, but I kind of loved it because then she drops to her knees and she's like, oh, dang, did I not write it down? I think she said, oh, man, did I not write it down? Oh, you know what? It's in my magic notes. I moved. That's when I...
that's the thing. We're crossing here.
We crossed over to magic, yeah. So, she drops down to her knees and she says... Miguel's the man I love. I swear he's going to be mine. Nothing's going to stop me now. She drops her knees. Charity be damned. And she raises her arms and proclaims, as God is my witness, I will never be good again. Yeah. Yes, girl. Yes, I loved it. As God is my witness, I will never be good again. Have you ever seen Wicked? The musical?
Yeah.
The no good deed goes unpunished. No act of charity goes
a long time ago.
Well, she says, she basically says, sorry. Oh, gosh. I'm trying to think of the line, but there's a line in there kind of like that. And she doesn't say as God is my witness, but she's just like, I will never do anything good ever again.
It was that moment.
all I could think was Elikamen namen not to Elikamen, because that's like the spell that she's doing. But anyway, no good deed goes unpunished, and Kay is learning that, I guess. She's been good. She's been good for all of 3 seconds.
She hasn't even been good though, which we'll pick up when we go to Tabitha's. But yeah, I have written here, she took the first excuse not to be good, the first most tenuous excuse to throw trying to be good out of the window.
And she went hard. Like, she went so hard. To say charity be damned, as God, with God as my witness, I will never, ever be good again. She went way too far for this. For it to be like, your parents aren't really married, but they're going to get married.
Yeah. But Tabby called it. But yeah, I mean, she wasn't being very self-aware. Like, who knew who could be walking up to that house at any moment? And she is screaming her plan to get Miguel. And yeah, charity be damned. She could have been rumbled quite easily.
She didn't care. She did not care. So let's finish up with troubled marriages, and then we'll go cross over back into magic. So the other people we need to talk about in this are Ivy and Julian and Rebecca.
Yes.
Eve is examining Ivy. Ivy is temporarily paralyzed, we are told, but it's temporary. They're saying it's temporary. Ivy then receives some papers from Julian, and it's her final divorce decree, but also within these papers, she's been banned from the Crane Mansion. And
from
of course, at midnight, at midnight, she will be permanently banned from the Crane Mansion. She, of course, starts to rage. She's like, that is my home. I'll be damned if I give up all that I've done to like, that's all I have left, that, you know, and she wants to leave the hospital. She's like, Eve, you have to let me out of here. I'm fine. Girl, you are not fine. You are paralyzed. You got struck by lightning. You are not fine.
She's not fine, but she's not about to let Becky Wecky move into my house. She wants to go out and kick Rebecca out on her big fat butt.
Mm-hmm. But Eve is like, girl, no, you cannot go. Which I don't know why. Again, I don't know why Eve is going so hard for Ivy after Ivy has been like blackmailing her. I don't get it, but she is. And she tells her, you can't leave, Ivy. If you leave, your being paralyzed might not be temporary. Yes. It might become permanent. But Ivy's like, I got to do what I got to do.
This was insane. I would have chosen my legs over a house. I don't care how big the house is. I want my legs to work. I did not get it.
Ivy has money.
Yes.
Buy yourself a house.
Yes.
Get out of there. What you want to be in that house of horrors for?
Can you imagine?
Like,
toxic environment.
I know you want to live in the mansion for some reason, but it's a hell house. And Rebecca's going to be there tormenting you. Julian's going to be there tormenting you. What do you want to be there for? It won't be happy. Girl, like, go build a house. Go have a nice little house built in the town. I know you feel like I guess you'll feel like it's your fall from grace, but to me, it's better to have your own home that really truly belongs to you than to live in somebody else's home where at any whim they can kick you out or do things to you, and now you're paralyzed too, so you're extremely vulnerable. Why would you want to be in there with these two psychopaths who hate you?
She sees it as her home, doesn't she? Because they were in the marriage. She sees it as her home. But yeah, is it really worth risking the ability to walk over? And like you say, it would be unbearable to live there anyway.
And my thing about that house too, about the mansion, is that should have been something that she fought for in her divorce.
If the divorce is final, maybe Julian, maybe they had who knows? Did they? No, they can't have had a prenup, or she wouldn't have been trying to fight for the house. She should
have fought for the house. I don't know how can Julian divorce her without her signing the papers?
Yeah. So if the divorce is done, all the details should have been worked out.
Right. They should have had her lawyer, his lawyer. They worked out all of the financial arrangements.
And if they can't agree, it would go to a hearing potentially if they can't agree on dividing up their assets. But that didn't happen. It just struck midnight one night, didn't it? And they were divorced.
And they're divorced. And that's why he went to Bermuda. So maybe that's the caveat of why he went to Bermuda, because that was the part that I didn't understand. Like, what does Bermuda have to do with him getting a divorce? But maybe he could get a divorce from Ivy in Bermuda where she didn't have to.
But then everyone would go to Bermuda if there was a loophole. I don't know.
I don't know.
They have different laws in different states. Is that correct about how divorces work and who gets what? I don't know what the law is in.
But I believe that in every state, pretty much, both parties have to sign off on the divorce, or a judge has to make a ruling, right? So maybe he had a judge make a ruling, I guess. I don't know. Whatever.
Wouldn't she have used Ethan as her lawyer? We didn't see Ethan helping out and
look at that. Ethan's her lawyer, and look at that. She's homeless.
Oh dear.
His sharp legal mind. He couldn't even get his
Crash
mama
and
a
burn
house,
again.
any assets out of this marriage that she's wasted her life in. So
And they are
yes,
meant to be multi-billionaires, aren't they, the Cranes? She would have got, if she didn't get the house, she would have got something substantial,
she
surely, in the
she
divorce.
should have gotten a lot in the divorce, and I'm hoping that soon they will show us what's going on with Ivy financially. Like they will explain, like Ivy's broke, and explain
And
why
again, she
she's
comes
broke.
from wealth anyway, doesn't she, Ivy? Yeah.
They have to explain to me why she's broke, because she comes from money. So where is her money? Where's her trust fund? Right? Okay. So Eve tells Ivy, no, you cannot leave. You're gonna make yourself worse. Ivy says, I don't care. I'm leaving. I'll sign whatever papers you need me to sign. Eve's like, well, you're going to have to sign a paper that says that you're leaving and checking yourself out of the hospital against medical advice. And she says, I don't care. I'll sign it. Give it to me. So she signs the papers, gets in her wheelchair, and leaves. And Eve follows her.
Eve was like, I've arranged for you to have a full-time nurse. I just don't know where to send the nurse to. And Ivy was like, the Crane mansion, obviously. And then Eve was like, no, it's not a good idea to go there. You're recovering from major surgery. You don't need any more stress.
Yeah. So she goes to the mansion in her wheelchair. And meanwhile, Julian is having a meeting with his lawyer, Harvey. What's his name again? Harper.
Oh, Harper.
I keep saying Harvey. His lawyer, Harper, shows up. I'm going to speed through this really quick. Basically, Rebecca, before Harper shows up, Rebecca threatens Julian again with, if you don't marry me, I'll tell everybody that you killed Sheridan. So then when Harper comes in, Julian says to him, I need my annulment done, and I need it done now and fast. And Harper's like, well, you went to another country. It makes things go a little bit slower. I have a harder time dealing with the laws in Bermuda than I would here in the U.S. And Julian says, well, I need this done now. And he says, well, what's the big deal? Why are you so scared of Rebecca? Because he keeps bringing up Rebecca. He says, like, Rebecca's breathing down my neck. Yeah. And then he tells Harper that he says Sheridan's death was no accident, actually. And Harper realizes, my God, you killed your own sister. And he's horrified. He says, count me out. I'm out of here. That's smart, Harper. But then Julian says, well, actually, it wasn't my idea. It was father's idea. Harper turns around and says, your father? And he's like, yes, my father. And you know very well that you can't just leave here now. Like, you will incur retribution if you abandon us now. So now,
here's my question. Alistair's also threatened Rebecca. Why is she not scared?
Yeah, I think it's because Julian is not going to tell Alistair that he married Theresa. So whatever, and of course Rebecca doesn't know that that's what's going on with him and why he's having like cold feet or whatever. But I think because Alistair has already said, you need to marry Rebecca, go ahead and marry Rebecca. She knows that Alistair's on her side. She knows that Alistair's on her side and wants her to marry Julian, partially because of all of the Sheridan shit. Actually, a large part of why he wants Julian to marry Rebecca is because he wants to keep her close because she knows so much.
So it's in Alistair's plan. Yeah.
So she knows that. So as far as Alistair goes, neither of these people have a reason to go to Alistair about this. Julian can't go to Alistair about it because then he would have to explain that he married Theresa. And Rebecca doesn't need to go to Alistair about it because Alistair would be on her side if she did.
Yeah.
Right?
So she can threaten Julian with confidence, which she's been doing for a long time.
Yeah. So the doorbell rings while they're having this conversation, Harper.
It was really
Julian.
funny because Julian like recapped to Harper about the whole thing about killing Sheridan, and he was like, Louise can never get access to the family's secret files, and Harper asks where the logic is and says, I don't see it, and I'm like, neither do we. And then Julian's like, you don't have to, I just need to get to the annulment, which I thought was a funny nod to the absurdity of the plot.
No, it was perfect. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Right, it doesn't make any sense.
Move on.
Oh my gosh. But yes, so the doorbell rings. Rebecca says, oh, I'll get it. Because she's not in the room with them when they're having their meeting. She comes back through the library or through the study to go get the door.
I'll be such a good wife. I'm thinking, where are all the maids in this house? Why do they have to get the door?
Off duty, I guess. Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody said that before where they were like, maybe I said it. These Cranes are always opening their own doors and answering their own phones. And I'm supposed to believe they're billionaires.
They're people for that.
Right. But yes, so Rebecca goes to the door, and of course it's Ivy trying to get in the house because they locked the door. Rebecca answers the door.
No, her key got fried in the lightning. She said my key got fried by lightning, which I thought was funny.
Oh, she said that? Okay, so I didn't think they had changed the locks, but I thought, well, maybe the door's just always unlocked. Like,
no, she said my key got fried by lightning, which I thought was funny.
No, you caught so much. Y'all always catch so much more than I do in those like little moments. I don't think I'm always listening. I know I'm not always listening sometimes, like, but no. Okay, her key got fried by lightning. Hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious. But that, that would do it. My brother, one time when we were kids, we had, those little night lights that go, that go into the wall, you plug into the wall.
Yep.
It was like pulled out ever so slightly. So so the plug part was like exposed, and my brother dropped a quarter like into the slit right between the socket and the plug, and it like melted the quarter.
I wondered if that would really happen, but that's probably sounds like it would then. Yeah.
It melted the quarter. Like it had like those two dent marks in it where it had like hit the metal, and the metal had gone into it, and it melted it, burned it. Yeah. It was, it was pretty cool, but
I'm sure, yeah.
That lightning would absolutely fry a key. Absolutely.
Fry a key.
Yeah. So Rebecca comes to the door, tells Ivy, no, you're banned from here. This is Julian's house, and I am Julian's fiance, so that means this is my house, and you cannot come in. And then Ivy tries to go in with like her wheelchair, but then Rebecca just pushes her away in the wheelchair, which again, like I said, Ivy is vulnerable. They can do anything to her because she is paralyzed. And that is like the end of them. Right? That's it for like the troublemaker.
Yeah, it was funny. Ivy was like, get out of my way, bitch. I'm coming through. Rebecca's like, over my dead body, just wheels her away. She's like, don't touch my wheelchair. Poor Ivy.
Poor Ivy, honestly.
I think Eric would have loved this scene. I think Eric would really enjoy it.
Eric did love this scene. Eric clipped it and sent it to me. I know Eric loved this. Like he loves wheelchair Ivy. He loves it, wheelchair Ivy. So,
and he loves a cat fight.
Rebecca and Ivy
Not
together.
that this was much of a fight, because Ivy was so vulnerable.
Yeah. Okay. Tabitha, magic, all of these things.
Magic.
Tabitha and Timmy have been summoned to the basement. Tabitha doesn't understand why.
Descend.
Descend. Descend, Tabitha and Timmy. Descend. Yeah, they're summoning her down. She doesn't understand why. She's like, no, look at all the pain and suffering going on in Harmony right now. And Charity thinks she has to give up Miguel. Like, we're doing good. We're up right now, baby. We're up. What do I need to come down for? And so they tell her to come down, but she doesn't want to go. She's scared. And then is sucked into a vortex. Why did I write that? What does that mean? Who got sucked into a vortex?
So, well, I've written...
it was imagination.
It was a swirl. I wrote swirl. There was like a swirl. And so it was funny because I really liked it because Timmy was like, Timmy says Tabitha hasn't even put a dent in good. And she's like, I'll tell them I'll try harder. And Timmy was like, try harder, that's it. And Tabitha was like, oh yes, it does sound rather lame, doesn't it? And Timmy says, lame? Timmy would rather be stuck with Norma and her axe than go down there than hear Tabitha give that cockamamie excuse. And then there's like a swirl, and the boys in the basement are like, you have failed miserably, and let the forces of good prevail.
Yeah, it was what Tabitha imagined was going to happen.
I wasn't sure about whether that was imaginary or real. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, and now so she imagines this horrible stuff happening when they go down in the basement. So then
that was just imaginary.
Yep, because then the two of them run away and run out into the front yard.
Yes.
And run away from the basement door. And then when they get outside, Timmy's like, we should flee. Let's go to New York. And then let's go to Honolulu. But then they realize that their feet are stuck to the ground. And we hear the demon saying, you can run, but you can't hide. But they can't run. Actually, you glued their feet down. So then they suck them back into the house. And she ends up going down into the basement. We demand that you descend. And when she gets downstairs, the demon goes, you have failed, hag.
That was a nomination for Burn of the Week for mine. Yeah.
I love the word hag. And I love the word.
It's so insulting, isn't it?
Yes, I love hag and I love like old crone. Like those two things, when somebody says that in a show, it just cracks me up. You hag.
What I thought was funny was like when they were going down there, Timmy was like, Timmy's never going to leave his princess. Timmy's going to protect Tabitha till the end. But he says it whilst like hiding behind her body, which I thought was really funny and really cute.
Yeah. And so they get down into the basement. The bottle that they trapped Hecuba in is like down there. They kick it by accident. And then Tabitha notices that there's a new curtain downstairs, new decor downstairs that she has never seen before. Timmy goes to kind of check behind the curtains, which again, very brave of Timmy to go to check behind the curtain. He goes to check, but then the curtains open up and it's a floating demon head who says, you need to report. What have you done? Basically, it's time to report. Check in. And Tabitha says, I haven't had to do a report since, I can't remember exactly, but it was like
since
a long time ago.
The Black Plague.
Yeah. And so she has a report, and Timmy says, why don't you just tell him, read Hidden Passions to him, and that'll tell him all the things that you've been doing. And whatever, it was a plug for Hidden Passions, which they plugged 3 times, I think.
That actor should have got a cut from The Prophets, because he did nothing but plug that book.
Yeah.
The actor that played Timmy, constantly plugging Hidden Passions.
He plugged it like 3 times this week.
Yeah.
So then she decides to start her report. She explains, and this is all, so much of this is just recap. Think about the things that Tabitha has done. Think about the things that are going wrong in Harmony right now. Those are the things that she talks about. Sheridan's been blown up by a boat.
Life. Yeah,
Sheridan's been blown up on the boat. And everybody thinks she's dead, but she's not. Imagine all the pain that's gonna cause everybody. Theresa has married someone that she didn't mean to marry, and she was drunk. And Kay is about to find out that she's a bastard, and she's the key to my plan to break up Charity and Miguel, because once she finds out that she's a bastard, she's gonna turn fully evil, and she's the key to breaking them up. The demon is not going for it. He's like, this isn't enough.
The demon was like, she's a civilian, how's she gonna help? And I'm like, is she a civilian? Because she's from that family, and it seemed like she has powers. The leaves were whipping up around her, so I thought that was interesting.
She definitely has powers. They said that all the Standish women have powers. All of these women have powers. And like you just said, she made the wind blow, and that was all her for sure.
Her evil, yeah.
And so it was her power. And it's just, I believe, and maybe I'm wrong about this, this is the way I want to believe it. I believe that they all have power, and they get to choose how to use it. But
or
it's kind of
use it,
or if they use it. And the reason why Charity's power is so powerful is because she's such a fucking goody two shoes, right? She's got the powers of goodness. And since Kay isn't such a goody two shoes, she still has power, but it's not quite as powerful because there's darkness there, and it's not pure. Charity's power is pure, and that's why it's so scary.
The powers of good help her. Yeah.
It's so scary to the bad side or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kay definitely has power. So yeah, she's telling the demon, look at what's going on in Harmony. There's so much pain and suffering happening here, and there's so much more about to happen. Like, you can't kill me now. And the demon's like, nope, now's the time. It's time for you to go to the pit of pain and despair, or pain and suffering and despair, or something like that.
It got a few things.
Where you will roast for all eternity. She starts begging for mercy. She's begging, like, no, please, that's so horrible.
I just need more time. Timmy made a good point. He's like, you took her powers away. How did you expect her to do anything? So, such a good point.
Yes, it is a solid point that everybody should keep making, you know? But while all of this is happening, Kay happens upon the basement door, and she can hear Tabitha's voice. It was so silly. She can hear Tabitha's voice. She sees like smoke coming out, and she sees like the lights, and she remembers that Tabitha said that like her tropical plants were down there, but she's like, oh, I hope Tabitha hasn't fallen. I'm worried about her. So she tries to open the door, but it is locked. So she knocks on the door, knock, 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 knock. And she's calling out to Tabitha. And this is when the demon says to Tabitha, get rid of her. Get rid of her, to make her go somewhere else, basically. And Tabitha says, so does that mean we're off the hook? We have more time? And the demon is like, I guess, yes. But if you don't get Kay to go dark and come over to the dark side and be bad again, then you will have to go into the pit of pain and despair. So that was easy. That was simple. Kay had to knock on the door, and now it's all over for them. You know, they can go back to their life.
I think it was a reprieve, because it said you granted with one condition, and Timmy was like, oh, fine print. And the EF, as Tabitha kept calling this demon, which stands for evil forces, if Kay doesn't turn evil, then you'll roast in hell forever. So they're like, yeah, make it turn evil or you're in trouble. So it was a conditional reprieve.
Yeah, so she goes back, and then she and Kay have tea. She explains to Kay about the plants. It doesn't matter. It was
masterful. Yeah.
They end up having tea together, and Kay opens up to Tabitha about how hard the last couple of years have been with Charity coming to town, and she says she sees now how she was wrong about trying to break up Charity and Miguel, and that she should actually be happy for Charity and Miguel. And Tabitha says, I thought you hated her blonde guts.
Yeah.
Which I loved. I thought you hated her blonde guts. And Kay says, well, you know, I think I'm responsible for all the horrible things that have been happening because my intentions haven't been exactly pure. But now, from now on, I'm only putting out good vibes so that only good vibes come back to me. So that's why when Sam calls the meeting, she is expecting something good because she's been good for 3.5 seconds, and she thinks now she deserves a trip to Honolulu or wherever she wanted to go, Waikiki.
But I think it's funny because she's not really good, because she was like saying to Tabitha, "Oh, you want tea? Oh, do you want anything else with that tea?" And before Tabitha can even answer, Tabitha started to say she wanted cookies. She just started talking about herself and what she wanted to talk about. So even good Kay is still all about Kay, which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah, she is who she is. And I appreciated that she was trying to at least not be like sneaky and scheming, and she's not trying to kill her cousin anymore, because I have not forgotten. I know I've been saying I'm Team K, I'm Team K. I have not forgotten that she really did try to kill Charity more than once. Like, for real. So, but yeah, she's just not doing that anymore, and that's what she considers good.
Guess why? That's why Tabitha's so confident in her plan. She's like, she'll return to the evil little vixen she's always been, Kay Bennett, the queen of mean.
Yeah. So we've established everything with the family meeting and Charity and Miguel. So we have to talk very briefly about what's going on between Charity and Miguel. These two people, first of all, they were at the book cafe. Remember, they gave Luis the book or whatever, and they have
wearing
a conversation.
The same outfits from Warlock Island.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, they're all of the kids on from Warlock Island are still in their Warlock Island clothes. Why?
Well, they've been waterlogged. As soon as you got back into Harmony, I would have been getting changed into my gym jams. Actually, probably getting a hot water bottle. Yeah,
you would shower, you would change clothes, you would get in the bed. Like, y'all have been through harrowing experience.
Charity's blouse got torn by the rock, but she's just going to chill in the book
in her raggedy clothes. And that the fact that they had that book for Luis means they went home.
They had a chance to get changed, but none of them chose to.
None of them. They're all still in those clothes. Thank you for bringing that up. I forgot. I didn't write it in my notes, but I remember being like, why haven't they changed clothes? Well, they're at the book cafe, still in their Warlock Island clothes, and dirty, raggedy. And
they look clean now, though, the clothes, actually.
I think Miguel's is still, I think Charity's looks cleaner than it should, but Miguel's is still pretty dingy, I will say.
Okay.
But not as dirty as it needs to. It should be. No. None of their clothes are as dirty as they should be. That's for sure.
He was in the same outfit. She looked fine. Yeah.
Y'all, they're talking about Charity saying, I still have this feeling that something's going to happen, that Kay's going to take you away from me, and also that I gave something up when I talked to the tree. And Charity says, I've been reading folklore on trees, and they represent they're symbols of wisdom and the divineness of nature. And Miguel then says to her, God, I hate him. I hate him. Then he says to her, oh, actually, Charity, I think I know why you think you talked to the tree. She says, oh, really? Why? And he brings out a copy of The Lord of the Rings and says...
He said it's from a book, yeah. I wrote, what book? The DSM-6. But no, it was The Lord of the Rings. The history about why she was talking to trees, yeah.
The Lord of the Rings. And he says, remember, we read this last semester, and you have such a great and amazing imagination that you just imagine talking to the tree. Because I read The Lord of the Rings 6 months ago. Like, shut up. I hate him.
These kids go to school. We've never seen it. Number 2, so he believes they were warlocks. He believes all this mad stuff that happened on the island. Why can't a tree talk to her as well? Why does he believe all the other craziness, but not that bit? He's gaslighting her.
He is. He's horrible, and I can't stand him. And he also reiterates the same bullshit he said last week, which was Kay doesn't want me, and when he knows that Kay wants him, he knows that they've had that conversation no less than 3 times. No less than 3 times has he had that conversation with Kay about how much how much she loves him. So don't give me this bullshit about Kay doesn't want me. You know she does. So that's again a lie. It's a lie. And I don't think the writers are framing it as a lie, but it is a lie.
Yeah, it seems like he believes it, but yeah, we know that's not the case. I thought it was funny when Charity said she had a hard time believing she was brainwashed by Tolkien. I thought that was quite funny. At least she's standing up for herself a little bit and not
a little bit.
Oh yes, I must be tired, Miguel. She gave a little bit of pushback. Miguel got frustrated with her, I think, for the first time.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's just, they had a little bit of a tiff. It got a little tense. It definitely got a little tense because she's saying, this is what happened to me, and he's not believing her. And at one point, she says that she had a vision of, because that's one thing we didn't talk about. Charity had a vision of the boat exploding.
Yes.
And she tells Luis that.
Yeah, she said, I saw it in my vision, and it looks horrible.
And Louise says, well, even if you had called us, we probably would not have heeded your warning. So
Yeah, and I was like, do you even know your fiance? If Sheridan got a call saying that Charity had a vision about them going on a boat exploding, there is no way Sheridan would have gone on that boat.
at all. Because I mean, she was ready to call off the wedding just because Charity had that
Yeah.
premonition about something horrible happening at the wedding.
Sheridan gets bad feelings, doesn't she? And doesn't Sheridan almost gets premonition. So I think Sheridan would have absolutely avoided the boat on that day. So that annoyed me a little bit.
Me
actually.
too. Me too. So Charity also talks about how she thinks something is going to happen to break them up. And she also has this feeling that Sheridan isn't dead. And Miguel says to her, do not tell Louise about that because it would just be too cruel. Yeah. And I feel similarly. Like I see both sides of this. I do, because Charity does have all of these premonitions, and she had specifically the premonition about Sheridan was true. The boat blew up.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah.
And so if she was to say, I also have this feeling that Sheridan's actually still alive, I think that would carry a lot of weight. Miguel doesn't believe her, though. He never believes her. He always is talking about how much he loves Charity, but he does not love her because he does not trust her.
He doesn't trust her at all.
He doesn't trust her. He doesn't believe her. He doesn't think that even though she's right,
and has been proven right quite a few times, he still doesn't believe anything she says.
Yeah. So that basically is it. We have like Kay doing her storm out and causing the windstorm.
Which we talked about.
I vow to never be good again. Charity and Miguel are walking home as this wind is starting to kick up, and Charity hears somebody saying, beware, beware. And I wonder, is that the trees?
I don't know, but Miguel didn't hear it, and Miguel doesn't hear it when the trees talk to Charity. So yeah, the trees is probably a good call, actually.
Yeah, and she says she feels like something has been put in motion that is going to hurt them. So that's where we ended this week. You have anything to add?
No, just my burn of the week was from Eve to Julian. So when Julian had said, we had sex too. We had sex, but you and I once had sex too, when he was talking about Theresa. And Eve just said, the thought of it fills me with revulsion. But it was also the look in her face. She was so disgusted. That was my burn of the week.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, thank you for being here with me again, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me. Loved it.
Great time. Thank you. Tell everybody where they can find you.
At Make Everyday Looks on YouTube and Instagram.
All right. And I will link that in the description. And as always, you can find me on all of the social medias. Just check the link in the description as well, and it'll take you to all of my other links. And with that, you are my passion for life.